Finance and Budget Committee. Glad to see everybody here today. JP Rio Stafford has agreed to do pledge and prayer.
Thank you. Dear Lord, help us to keep everyone in our county safe. Help us to keep everyone healthy. Help us to make good decisions tonight and all this month. And look over everyone in our county. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, JP Rio Stafford. Next on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
JP Bruns.
Thanks, sir. I have three things that I would like to add to the agenda if possible. It's what I had talked about last week. It's an improvement on ordinance 2016-46. And then I have two other ordinances that I want to present. I don't have them in formal put into a formal format yet, but I will have that by the time we have a meeting for.
Okay, so we need to go through these one. So your first one, which looks to be in the format, is an ordinance amending Washington County Code Section 2-1, 16-11, and 16-12, correct?
Correct.
And I think everybody has that in front of them. So you have a motion to add this to the agenda?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor adding the consideration of this ordinance to the agenda, say aye.
Excuse me, sir, isn't there discussion first?
Yes. Yes. JP Ecke?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this an appropriation?
No.
Is this
Doesn't
budget,
look- doesn't
does
look
this
to
have
be.
anything to do with
Doesn't look to be.
the budget? Then I believe that the motion is improper. This should go to county services and not budget and finance. So I'd like to make a motion to amend that this be sent to county services.
Okay. Okay.
This is being presented at the wrong committee. So as far as whether we put this in play tonight would be, I just default that to the members vote. But I think the problem we do have, JP Bruns, is that we don't have the right format that identifies what's added, what's deleted. So this can be reviewed tonight. So I think we need to get this in the right format and then brought back to, I agree, I think the County Services Committee is the better committee to consider this first. But I think we need to get it into the right format and then bring it back for
Okay,
consideration.
so having money spent to do this would already be covered under a budget item somewhere? If we voted in?
It's an appropriate, if it's, never mind.
Sorry. So, yeah, so are you asking if we voted this in, is there funds to do this?
Well, that's my question. Will we have to?
I'm sure we would have to appropriate money somewhere, ultimately, right?
And then probably have to be in each of the department's budget that would have to do this, would come through
So
with
then
them adding budget to their, adding
Then
money.
we have to appropriate money, is what you're
Right.
saying?
Right.
Okay, so why would it not be budget?
I think that's a line we're trying to understand better. Again, I opt to, if you get it in the right format, you want to bring it back here, then we'll leave it up to the members of the committee whether they consider it or not, from that standpoint. But I think my biggest problem right now is just not, it's not in the format we need it to be considered. Other questions or comments?
Where do we pick up the format so that I can?
Pursuant to the ordinances of Washington County, you're to submit that to the county attorney's office. We put it into its correct format. The formatting problem is any matter, any information that is, first off, it takes an ordinance to amend an ordinance, so you'll have to designate the ordinance you're amending. Then anything that's being added is underlined, anything that's being removed is stricken through for ease of viewing for both the quorum court and the public when we then publish it.
So everything has to go through your office?
Not necessarily, I mean, pursuant to your rules, yes. If it doesn't, it takes a 2/3 vote to get added to the quorum court agenda. The problem is, from a procedural standpoint then, if it were to pass and it's not in the right format, there's an argument that it's invalid as an ordinance because it failed to follow the proper procedures and it failed to follow state law in the way that it has to be presented.
Okay, you danced around what I was asking.
I don't think I did at all. I answered your question very thoroughly.
I don't think so. But my question was, how do you get the format?
Well,
How
there's
can I get the format?
You can review the ordinances that have been passed by the quorum court that talk about the format. You can also review state law.
I think it's specified in that ordinance as well. It talks about the time.
Right, so part of it comes from state law, part of it's statutory, part of it is the ordinances as have been adopted by the quorum court.
Okay, so that would be the same for all three of these? If they're not in the right format, that's what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay. At this time, I'll withdraw my motion.
Thank you, sir. Any other changes to the agenda? I know a lot of people keyed up. Did you have? Okay, thank you. I had a motion from J.P. Dean to adopt the agenda. I didn't hear a second. So I have a motion by J.P. Dean to adopt the agenda, a second by J.P. Dennis. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The agenda is adopted. Item 4 is the treasurer's report. Treasurer Hill.
Chair, good evening, court. 4.1. It's late summer, but still revenues haven't quite caught up yet. And you see the first line, general fund. 3.3 million was expended, 1.7 came in. As far as the road, 2000 road and 3017 jail, revenues and expenditures pretty much matched. You know, it's halfway down this report, 6498. Payroll says negative 1.1 million. That is not really what's happened. It overlapped the end of September and the 1st of October. It takes us 2 days to process it. So that's just, it was fixed the next day, but I didn't want that to raise some eyebrows. And at the end of this report, 87.4 million we started with, 84 million in the bank at the end of the month. 4.2, the ARPA report. Between the EOC and the COVID mitigation project, we spent about 1.2 million in September. So far, it's 40.9 million expended of that 46.4 obligation. 4.3, county general property taxes, another good month, 603,000 came in compared to 528,000 last year. And over the next 3 months, we should expect another 11 to 12 million to come into the general fund alone. 4.4, the 1 cent sales tax, 965,000 came in this month. That's 6.7% increase over last year. And for the year, we're 5.61%. 5.61%. Not even a reader. For the year. 4.5, the 1/4 cent jail tax. Almost $1.5 million came in. That's 7.7% over the same period last year. In terms of money, it's 800,000 more for the jail this year than last year. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Treasurer Hill? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Number 5 is employee insurance report. Mr. Angel?
Good evening. Well, we bounced back a little bit from last month, which was, I think, our roughest month in history, so we only had one direction to go there. Our drug claims went down from 379,000 to 295,000. Medical claims down from touch over 1 million to 392,000. So where we ended up was right on our average month, which again is higher than expected claims, which are set by the stop-loss providers and their underwriters and actuaries, but we ended up at 765,000. You will see we went ahead and put an RX rebate in on September for next month because that was already realized, so we thought we'd go ahead and share that with the committee. Our total funds for the year, it looks like we're running at about 625,000 in negative compared to funding. Now, a few things to keep in mind on that, or probably the most important thing to keep in mind on that is we do have one claimant that has run much hotter than others, and that's where you get that reinsurance reimbursement there of 537,000 that we've already got. Everything with that large claimant for the rest of the year, as we discussed last month, will continue to be reimbursed by the stop-loss provider. Now, January 1st, that deductible starts over again, right? But for the rest of 2025, those claims will still be paid by the insurance fund, but then fairly quickly reimbursed by stop-loss. So hopefully we can slow down that progress of going negative 80,000 a month, but it's something we definitely want to keep eyeballs on with the current plan funding differential.
Any questions for Mr. Angel? Thank you, Mr. Angel.
Yes, sir.
Item 6, Comptroller's report. Comptroller Sherman.
Good evening, everyone. The first report there is the unappropriated reserve balance. The only ordinance last month that affected that was the salary sweep, so that actually added back into the unappropriated reserve. And so you see there, unappropriated reserve for the general fund is it's sitting at $3 million right now, which is pretty good. So is there any questions on this report? So then the second report is the operations, statement of operations ending September 30th. We're 75% through the year, so nothing really sticks out to me. I just did some quick calculations based on how we're spending right now. If we can continue that path, if we don't have any big bills at the end of these last 3 months, we'll be $5 million under budget for county general, which is pretty good. Like Mr. Angel just talked about, we are about $318,000 over budget in the healthcare fund. I'm going to talk about the healthcare fund in a little bit. We handed out a talking paper. So that's a fund that I've been watching the whole time, continue to watch, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Is there any questions on this? Everything's looking pretty good, I believe. Okay, so as far as the budget goes, we don't have an official ordinance tonight to vote on or anything. We might prepare that for the quorum court. I think everybody has gotten the spreadsheet. I sent a spreadsheet out again on updated stuff. There wasn't very much updates, truthfully. It didn't move the needle much on the overall budget. But if you look here on 2026 budget request, the total budget is $128 million. That's a 1.7% increase over 25, which is really good. County General is $56 million, the total request, and that's 6.7 over 25. The good thing about that is property tax increases are outweighing that increase in our request for the budget. A lot of that would probably be labor. And then the other funds, which includes jail, roads, and library, a couple other things like that. That's going down by 2.84%, $72 million. One of the things there that you see is as we spend the ARPA money, that's partly why the construction, that's partly why that one's going down. So overall, though, it's 1.7% increase, $128 million budget. So that's the first on the overall budget. The labor request, which is always something that I am looking at to establish where we are with labor, the request is total of $68 million. That's 53% of the total budget, which we've talked about in the past. We like to be between 50 and 60, 50 and 55, so I think we're right on the money there. It was interesting to look, County General has a little bit higher percent than the other road and jail and the other funds, and that makes a lot of sense to me because the people that work in County General, mostly there's a lot of clerical work that's done, like myself. If you look at the other things like the jail, roads, we're putting asphalt down, we're using heavy equipment, we're feeding detainees, we're medical care for detainees. So that makes perfect sense to me. But the way that it breaks out is 53%, which I'm good with. If you look at what goes into labor, the county contributions, because that's what a lot of people don't realize. One of the things, when we hire somebody, you can add almost, in some cases, if you're looking at a $40,000 employee, you're adding 50% on top of that. And the way that happens is we have to match people's FICA, which is 7.65%. We put in for APRS, the retirement system, we put in 15.32% into their, to establish their retirement annuity in the long run. I think the individuals it's starting to move up, but the individuals put in about 6.5% now. I think it's going to 7 or something like that. So that combined with our 15% gives that person that annuity in the long run. Health insurance is a very big bill for us. We put $832 per month for every employee that takes health insurance. Translates out to roughly about $10,000 if you take health insurance. So my example there, on a $40,000 employee, let's say that that's $10,000, so it's 25% right off the bat. So that plan is our plan is very good. So I'll talk about that in the bottom here a little bit because we're looking at that every day on how we can affect utilization, how we just don't go broke over healthcare. And this is a debate across all levels of government right now. If you watch the news, healthcare's the big debate. Workers' comp insurance, we pay $634,000. That's the whole, for every employee. And it's based off of a salary level. It's also based off of the claims from the last 3 years. I think that I sent an email out that talked about that a little bit, but our multiplier went up based on the experience of our claims. And our multiplier that they use to calculate that went up based on our experience of claims over the last 3 years. One of the things, initially I thought that was pretty high, so I started digging in and thinking about it. But if you think about somebody, if they get injured serious at work, like if you get a serious injury, let's just talk about maybe a head injury that's going to affect you the rest of your life, you know, workers' comp pays those claims for the rest of that person's life. So it might not be as expensive as I thought initially. Life insurance is pretty low. It's $52,000. I think it's a couple dollars per month per employee. So that's what goes into the labor. That's 68 million. So the salaries and all that stuff at 53%. Is there any questions on? The multiplier of I think it went to like 1 point something. I can get that for you. I think I have an email here. Hold on, I think I brought that email.
JP Bruns?
Just a second.
Yeah, so the workers' comp, the premium increased approximately 139,000. This is the email that I sent out. Workers' comp insurance is through the AAC. Our experience modifier is what it's called, went up 23% from 25, and that's an estimate, but it was 0.98, and it went to 1.21. And I'm not really sure how they do that on the salaries and stuff like that, but that was the increase of the modifier. Is there any further questions on labor?
Go ahead, JP Brun.
I don't have anything on labor. My question is that we were briefed on the fleet that we're renting for the road department.
On the graders?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in 1 second. Like I'm at the road department vice superintendent's here, and we're going to talk about the graders.
Okay.
So I didn't have that on I didn't have time to put that on the talking paper.
JP Lopez?
Thank you for being here. I have a question. So this 53.14%, this is including the pollers, right? Or the poll workers. That's something that you said that goes pretty cyclical whenever we have an election year. Is that factored into this? Is that part of that percentage?
It would be in the 53%, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, any labor that would fall under labor like part-time, and it's in that figure right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
JP Rio Stafford?
Thank you, Chair. Going back to the workers' comp, I had, when seeing that the premium was going up and the experience modifier was going up, I had sort of, in my mind, thought, well, hey, what about the idea of would we get a better deal somehow if we put this out to bid? Because our workers' comp is through the AAC right now, and maybe someone on the private market might be more cost-effective to do that. We don't know. I'd sent an email to the judge asking that, and he gave me a very detailed answer, and I'm not quite sure I understand it. And here he comes now to maybe answer that.
Sorry about that. I should have
Yeah.
sent that. I should have replied that back to the entire core report.
that's
So I
okay.
apologize about that, but we'll cover it. I've never experienced a price difference with the AAC. They're always usually very competitive with the things that they present to us. I have not asked them specifically about our experience modifier or the work comp. Two things that I responded back to Justice Rio Stafford about was, one, I don't know that there is a cost difference. I don't know that if we moved to the state unemployment insurance that we would receive any better rate. That's something we could definitely talk to the AAC about. I'm sure they would answer those questions. They're our partners. They're not just a vendor. Secondly, and I want to just make this is something that we learned. If you remember back when we were going through our property insurance earlier this year and we bid that out, the AAC offers property insurance. And we were really engaged in a lot of talks with them in terms of taking over our property portfolio. One of the things they highlighted to us is that risk management pool is a cooperative. It is a pool of all the counties together. and they really like to keep all the counties together to keep everything solvent. One of the things they warned us about was that if we were to come under their property insurance, if we ever left property insurance, we would have to leave the whole risk management fund. They want it all or nothing, and I hope that kind of makes sense. And so I hope I'm making sense what I'm trying to say. So what they warned us about is right now, essentially, Washington County is grandfathered in. I know we have some consternation about that word. Grandfathered into the risk management pool without property insurance. The only thing that would ever change that is if we accepted that but then ever left. I'm afraid that workers' comp might be along those same lines. That's something that we really want to clarify before we started pursuing that. Once again, not sure it's not worth pursuing, but we want to absolutely understand the consequences of that. The most drastic issue that would cause is our legal risk management fund. You know here that our county attorneys are always very busy, but one of the things they don't have to handle are like the 1983 federal claims through the jail or those types of things. Counselor could probably speak much more edified to those types of risks, but what I'm saying is the AAC does a lot for us through that legal risk management fund that I would hate to ever lose that coverage. And it's just something to consider when we keep going about it. And I don't know that there's a cost savings there. But if there's any other questions about that. And I try to, if a JP asks our office questions, we try to reply all so that you guys can all see that so we can share this information. I apologize about not getting that shared around to everybody, but I hope that explanation helps.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure that we were trying to get the most bang for our buck and looking at all that. And of course, we don't want unintended consequences with that. There's always trade-offs with any change, and sometimes there's big trade-offs that don't make it make sense. So thanks for that explanation.
JP Dennis?
Thank you, Chair. My question was on the supplemental insurance, and I'm showing my ignorance of not knowing this, but I never have seen it before. Insurance retiree payments.
Yeah, I'll have to investigate that.
12,664 current, 13,761 previous month, 115,073 for the year. And just curious about that. Are we paying or are they paying? The judge has the answer for us. So I just never had seen that line before, and it popped out at me, and I thought, wait a minute, are they paying or are we paying?
Where are you looking?
It's on a supplemental insurance that came out on, it's 1002 employee insurance.
I believe what that is, and we will definitely research that and send you guys an email tomorrow to confirm. If you retire from service from the county, you have the option to retain county health insurance. But now that you're no longer an employee, you shoulder that burden financially all on your own. Now, what we do run into is our health insurance is so desirable that we do have a handful of retirees that still reimburse us for their health care. They are still eligible for health care through the county.
So they're paying it in.
They're paying it into us, yes, sir.
That's what it doesn't, it's not clear.
It's
about
essentially
that.
a benefit that we still want to
That
offer
I
our retirees. You can understand people
Sure.
retire pretty often before they're eligible for like Medicare. And it's a bridge for them, and they're usually very appreciative of the option.
Right, I understand that.
Okay.
It just didn't say that it was a paid in. Okay, thank you, that was mine.
There you go. I'm still learning.
Hey, guys, sorry to come back up on you. I know you have a long night tonight, but that's something that we actually have to do by state statute. I think it's been around since 1987. So if you're part of APERS or LOPFI or any qualified government pension program, then you must offer your retirees coverage. Now, much like the judge said, you can have the retiree pay for that, and almost all counties do have the retiree pay for 100% of that. But we must offer them coverage until they are offered other credible coverage, which traditionally is Medicare. So it's tough on claims because the older we get, the more we utilize, right? But it's something that by statute we must offer.
I think it's around $1,200 a month too. So it's because what you do is you have to pay the county portion too. The county doesn't pay your portion anymore. You got to pay the whole portion. So it's expensive, but if you have something going on, it's cheaper than not having insurance at all. Any additional questions on that before we get into the insurance fund?
Comptroller Sherman?
I got some other stuff too.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the health insurance fund, I said we're going to talk about it a little bit more. The current balance is 962,000. You know, when I first got here, it was like 2.5 million or something, and I wanted to bring it down to around 1 million, and we did that, and then lo and behold, we did experience a very large claim. But the stop loss insurance definitely helped us. And we got that money back in relatively quick. I think it was in about a month and a half that money came back. So we just watched the account. It went to about 200,000. Now, the thing that we do, the county contribution is $832 a month per person, and that's gone up 65% since 2020. And we keep the premiums low on the employees. We try to burden the premium and not burden the employee with that cost. So JTS and HR, you know, they look at utilization, they look, and they're basically saying, hey, we'll definitely need a cash infusion next year. So how you get there is the question. Based on utilization, they say that maybe it would be best at $1,000 a month. Instead of 832, so it's going to jump again. And then what that adds to the total labor cost is 1.2 million. That being said, we don't necessarily have to do that immediately, just to make sure everybody understands that next year we might get in a situation where I come and if we don't do the 1,000 per member that takes health insurance per month, I might come and say, hey, we need this type of infusion. And what I'm sort of banking on or hoping happens is maybe lower utilization. And see, I consider the health insurance fund a must-pay and constantly watch it. We have the money that we could infuse. Right now, at that 832, every payroll, so every 2 weeks, we're putting about 360,000 into the account. So the account's not going to totally drop unless we would experience another gigantic claim. You know, those don't come very often, though. So, and stop-loss insurance saves you on some of that. One of the problems is on that particular claim, they have the ability, the health insurance companies have the ability to say that they're going to put a laser on individuals. So they can say, hey, everybody else's reinsurance stop loss is 185,000, but this particular person is 500,000. Total legal, and if you don't agree to it, then they raise your rates on everybody. So that's sort of what drives the increase that we need to put more money in. So, but is there any questions on the health insurance fund? Those are the two options. You know, we could put it in the budget and say, hey, we're going to do 1,000 per month, or we could say, let's see what happens. And then, but I mean, we have the money. When I say let's see what happens, if the account starts going down, then I come back and ask you for the $1 million then, or 500,000, or whatever it may be.
So what would be pros and cons for each? I mean, one way or the other, we're going to pay for it.
Right. I would say that the only con would be is the bureaucracy of having to come through committee and then through quorum court. And, you know, if that becomes an issue, and we could also do an emergency meeting if we had to, but I don't think, like this last time when it went to 200,000, what I did is I said, okay, we're not going to pay any invoices until I sign off on them. So we just slowed the invoices just a little bit. I mean, it wasn't even that much. We were watching, and maybe we paid every 2 weeks instead of every week. So, and then once the reinsurance kicked in, we were back up to 900,000 relatively quick. So that's the only deal is if, you know, if there was a case where it just the bottom totally dropped out and we had even a higher claim and we're waiting on the reinsurance, you know.
So timing.
Timing's the only issue. I mean, it's, you know, so.
JP Rio Stafford?
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to put you on the spot with numbers, because I hadn't really discussed this, but do you know, if we do option one, how would that change the percentage of the total labor?
Well, you,
a little
you may be
further?
shocked that I ran that
Oh,
number
you did?
before I
Okay,
came here.
all right.
It would add about 0.5%, so it'd be 53.7 or something like that, 53.6.
Okay, okay, so it wouldn't change that much, and we'd still be within that sweet spot of
It would
50 to
change the,
55%.
it wouldn't change the percentage
Like
that
half a
much.
percent,
Half a
yeah.
percent, maybe.
Okay. And then, yeah, I mean, my concern would, be with option two, is that we may, maybe later we may forget about it after a while, and, we're appropriating money throughout the year because unexpected things happen, and then that pops up, and we had forgotten about it by next, whatever, August or September or something. Like, my opinion just is it's better to kind of budget for it, and then if it ends up not being used, that can be swept back?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So what do you need from the court? I mean,
Well, the deal is if you give me a general census that you would rather use the $1,000 a month, we'll go ahead and put that in the budget and send you guys a new budget. So you could, when we actually vote on the ordinance, then it's in there.
Yeah, I think you can do that.
all right. JP Koger?
Well, this is kind of a general question, but won't the county employees need to know in advance where they're going to be paying $8.32 per month? Or
No,
what?
that's us paying it. The employee's premium is not gonna change.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna burden the additional amount just on the county.
Okay, well, then I lean toward doing option one, would be my,
JP Ecke?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That would be my sentiments as well, being prudent and planning, and it's better to have it than to not have it. And I was going to ask you, how stressful is it when you're sitting there delaying invoices and watching this going back and forth? I've been there, done that on a smaller scale,
Yeah.
but, waiting for the check to come in. So,
I mean, it's a little bit stressful, but I've been watching money my whole life, so, unfortunately.
okay.
Now I know whose mic I turned off. Let's do this. So Comptroller Sherman has how we think we should lean, and he can put that in the ordinance for the budget. Somebody want to give me a motion for one or the other? Okay, I have a motion and an option for option one, which is to add the $1,000, take it to $1,000 per month per employee, by J.P. Ricker, second by J.P. Rio Stafford. All those in favor, aye? Aye. All those opposed? There you go, sir. Oh.
Okay, yeah,
that work?
we'll put it in the budget, so next time you receive a budget, which will be before the quorum court meeting, this will be in there.
Okay.
Next, so the graders, we'll go ahead and talk about graders now if you want. And Bart Ledgerwood's here to help me out, and Chief knows a little bit too if we get in a bind. But basically, there's two options that I see. It's not on, the graders aren't on here. The roads superintendent retired, so I've become expert in grader leases here, and it's a lot of moving parts. But what I see the options are either buy brand-new graders out, and that would require at least $1 million or more out of county general, or you go with lease options, and that will be budget neutral based on what each bidder is telling us. We have not approved any bid yet. We do have the bids. There's a lot of moving parts to the finances that we've been working out. And I'll let Bart talk a little bit about some of the differences and the experiences that we've had going with who we have right now.
Sure. Evening. Being honest with you, we don't really have a preference on either one of the machines. They're both fairly equal. So whether you go with Caterpillar or you go with the John Deere, both are great machines. What we're trying to look at is overall what's best for the county. Honestly, if you go with the John Deere, there's a lot less impact to the budget. They're willing to pick up the buyout. I will say the numbers are very close. Having looked at that, we went through a few things, and I'll speak to those a little bit. What I do know in the past, CAT did come with a higher trade-in value allowance on these machines, but I want you to understand that that was a date of whenever they did the inspection. That is not at the date of when we're actually gonna trade them in. So that $200,000 that you're seeing was the trade value. They said, this is what we give you today if that was what you wanted to do today. That's not gonna be in January or February after we've ran them for the last 6-7 months. So that's a little convoluted, so I want you guys to understand that that's not the true dollar amount. And in the past, what has happened when we've traded with CAT, you send the equipment in, they do an inspection on it, then they come back and they say, okay, this, and this has to be fixed before we'll do any of the trade. And then we'll say that this is the appropriate money that you're gonna get. I know that even after that, it has gone down to another CAT facility where they've had buyers come in and say, we want this machine, but this needs to be fixed. Well, CAT has in turn said, Washington County is going to pay for that. The cost comes back to us. So I do know in the past that even one machine cost up to $40,000 even after we had traded the machine in. So to be fair, the numbers are a little skewed on the front end, but the number that we got from John Deere is the number that you're gonna get whenever we do the trade. We've had a little heartburn with CAT. I'm not here to badmouth really either one of these guys. We have a good working relationship now with both of them. Back in the past, we did buy a new CAT paver, a 555. That was dumped on our yard. We had no training with the machine that we were promised. Day one, we walked out on Wyman. We couldn't get the machine to work. Made phone call. We finally had 2 technicians come out. They got the machine finally up and running after hours. After we'd already had asphalt, we had to put it down with the other machine. And the new machine, we finally just used the screed, the heat of the asphalt to lay. So it was an issue. In turn, CAT sent us a bill for their 2 technicians. You're talking about a $500,000 machine that we hadn't even used yet. So there's a little heartburn for us with CAT. So at the end of the day, we have a better working relationship with John Deere. With this substantial amount of a purchase, we feel more fluid and trustworthy with them, if so be. But that's kind of my 2 cents. Plus, you're not having to come up with the $1.4 million for the buyout if we go with the John Deere, so there's no impact to our budget. Any questions for me?
I have one. It's more about finance.
Sure.
So I'm more interested in, if we look 15, 20 years down the road, what's the total cost to the county if we continue to do these leases, release 13, release 13, release 13, versus buy them out and get on a rotational basis that we're replacing one every whatever number of years?
So they've seen that as part of our heartburn going forward, and if we do go with the John Deere, there will be no buyout at the end of this contract. Oh, sorry. There will be no buyout at the end of this contract. They'll assume, and we will go right back into another lease. There will be no balloon payment. There will be no lease payments. At the end of this contract, we can go right into another lease with no cost to the county.
And that's John Deere.
That is John Deere, correct.
So we can go right into a new lease, new graders, no buyout, no anything?
Yes, sir.
Or keep the graders and go into a rotational? 'Cause I'm still curious about this lease versus what other counties do, which is get into a rotational that every so often you replace one or whatever, and what does that really look like as we go down the road?
And personally, and this is a preference. I mean, when you do buy, you have some kind of residual value. We live in a county where graders are always going to be an asset that we're going to have. It's just like the dump trucks. So having said that, Wouldn't it be better to have a brand-new piece of machinery that I am not paying for anything other than my maintenance items? I'm doing the wearables, just the tires and the blades and the filters, so that we have no out-of-budget cost. I have one machine, a CAT machine, that comes right at the end of its life cycle at the 4,000 hours that I just spent almost $70,000 putting a motor in. That's kind of why we're pushing for this now, because I do have these machines that are coming down on the end of their life cycle. So purchasing these machines, in my opinion, is really not a good option. The ones that we currently have to keep. Either way we go, whether we go with Cat or John Deere, I would still press for a new machine. Because we don't want to turn around, buy these out for the 1.4, and then turn around and have to spend another $500,000 to maintain these machines that are on the last of their life cycle. Unfortunately, we've kind of inherited some of the bad negotiation that happened in the past. So we're trying to work past that so that the county is not labored with this at the end of this 5 years. What we would like to do is just go right back in to get 13 new graders and move forward. We've got new warranty, new machines, and the guys just keep working.
And that maintenance is for the life of the lease for
Yes,
5
sir.
years? They take care of everything?
And that also includes travel time and mileage. So if I have a breakdown, they will go out and fix the machine for zero cost. And John Deere has even said that if I have a breakdown that is going to take more than 48 hours, they'll provide us with a loaner.
Okay.
I'll say one thing too. I think Judge and I were talking today, and we think, you know, these companies make money on the back end on these graders, but what they like to do is they like to be in part of the maintenance deal all through it. So what they can do is they can say, hey, we've been maintaining this grader the whole time it's certified. And then what they do is they turn around and sell it to a county that doesn't have as much money as Washington County, you know, or et cetera.
Okay. One more to try to get to a money checkbox I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to make it easier, okay? I like
Sure.
everything you've told me so far, so I'm not debating it. I'm really, okay? But what does one of the graders cost us on this lease over 5 years, total cost compared to buying one?
I'd have to put the numbers together for you. With the total buyout and everything, it's,
The lease is 4.5% is what that's the interest rate on it.
So we pay so basically we'd be paying 4.5% on top of what a new one would cost us, really is what we're looking at.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
and that's a staggering interest rate for today. I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, it kind of makes sense if you're looking for a brand new piece of machinery that we're going to continue to run year after year. So why not save the county a little bit of money, because we're not having to fight with the maintenance and I'm not having to fight with the breakdown. It all makes sense for us, and that's kind of what we're pushing for. Now, what I would say is we have 8 machines that are getting ready to come due on this lease. In order for us to be able to get these machines procured, that's kind of why we're pushing. They're in production now, so the longer we drag this out, February, I may not be able to get these machines, and that is the last thing I want to happen.
Okay. JP Ecke?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question regarding the roads 1 cent sales tax. Is that designated, that 40%, is it designated for certain items, or can it be appropriated out of their reserves?
Treasurer Hill still here? I think I know the answer to that, but he'll know it for sure.
Split 60/40 general road, that's just historically the way
Yeah,
Gore
but,
done it, but it can go to anything in the road department.
so all of that roads goes into, that 40% goes into the roads reserve fund? And,
Yeah.
or for what?
Just goes in their fund to be budgeted.
It goes into their fund. And what do they allocate out of their fund? Is it designated, or can it be moved around from line item to line item?
I mean, it can be moved, because it's just general, it's a general sales tax, so it can be used whatever you would want to do in the road.
So if we needed to, rather than it come out of county general, it can come out of their reserve fund? If we had to?
I mean, you can you can fund out of general for anything.
Yeah, but can we fund anything out of the roads fund, roads reserve?
For road. Yeah, only for road.
Only for road. What I'm saying is, if need be, the graders could come out of their reserve fund. Yes or no?
The general reserves?
No, the roads reserve. That's what I'm asking for, is what specifically can come out of the roads reserve fund?
Well, I have it all piled in one fund, my report. I don't have a road reserve. So anything in that fund can be used for anything road related.
Road related.
Yes.
Okay, that's, rather than depending on county general, at least I know that we can use that for road purposes.
I mean, road
Correct.
doesn't have much of a reserve as far as.
They don't?
I mean, when you're talking about what their budget is and what the revenue is,
No, really?
there's not a big reserve.
I guess I haven't looked at it in a long time because I remember they used to have so much money in there.
Not right
any-
now.
Not anymore.
That money has been spent down.
Okay. And just one comment, the trade-in value, traded in today, that is such a used car sales pitch. I mean, I sold cars in college and that was, what would it take for you to trade in today? Because that's the only offer I'm giving you today. So, if they're gonna play strong arm and not be willing to negotiate, you know what you're doing. I appreciate it. Well, thank you.
JP Bruns?
Wow, that's a lot of complication there. I don't envy your job, man. When you said staggered interest rates earlier, when you said the 4.2,
This is a very good interest rate for today's market. Yes, sir.
that's for today's market.
Yes, sir.
Is that a fixed rate?
Oh, sorry.
Is that a fixed rate?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'd have that throughout the life of,
Of the
Okay.
lease, yes, sir.
how many graders did we buy the last time? Or rent, or?
I believe it's 13, yes.
Okay, so we did 13. What are we asking for now?
13. We're
So
replacing
we're just
the,
looking to replace? We're not looking to,
yes, sir.
have we ever given any thought? And you may have done this, and you may tell me that doesn't work, but maybe buying 5 and then
We actually are going to keep one of the graders. I actually have a few of the older graders that we use for like new construction, and on the reclaim crew, we have a few more graders that aren't route graders. These 13 are gonna be strictly route graders. We are going, with the one that I talked about, we put the motor in, we are going to keep that one, so it will be another spare. What I would love to see, to put 2 more guys on route to kind of tighten that up a little bit, so those guys are making a quicker turn, so that citizens are seeing them more out there, and we're getting around the routes a little quicker. So if I can make that happen, I would like to add 1 more guy to each side. That's was the intent, to keep that one that we're wanting to purchase. So I get what you're saying. Keep the best 5, but at this point, I would rather start fresh with the 13, and that way I know everything I've got that's running every day is a fresh grader, and then I'll keep the ones in reserve.
Okay, do we have the option then, do we have to keep it 13 years? Do we have to keep it, can we have the option of maybe in 5 years sell to and trade to or release?
I believe at the end of this 5 years, we do have the option to buy some of these out of the lease. I guess that would really depend on what the graders look like at the end of the 5 years. I know that these, the majority of them, we're seeing some problems, but then again, that may be this particular model, had a lot of COVID and a lot of stuff going on during that time. So definitely something to look at the end of the life cycle of the next batch, for sure.
Okay. The, the push last year, and I could be wrong here, but I thought the push this last year, 2025, was to chip and seal, like 200 miles.
Yes, sir.
Did we complete that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how is that working?
As far as,
Well,
last year, let me sum that up for you a little bit. Last year was, we were cleaning up past sin more than anything.
I'm sorry?
Cleaning up past sin. So, lack of maintenance, we had seen that a lot of the roads were starting to deteriorate, and the big push for last year was to put, lack of better terms, a Band-Aid on everything. You don't want to let everything drop down to where it's at 10%. So some of the roads that were getting down to a margin of, let's say, 60 to 50%, we've seen we can come back in, we can do the chip seal on top of it. It gives us that life cycle, it gives us the bite to try to dive back into these roads for the next 5 to 7 years without having a catastrophic failure. So we're not having to go back and do all asphalt. And I would encourage all of you guys to go out and look at the new process we've been doing with the chip seal anyway. It's really nice with the fog seal over the top. But that's gonna be our standard practice going forward.
but that's a chip seal?
Yes, sir. Goshen Tuttle was one of the ones we just recently did. If you would like to go take a look at it. It's not been striped and fog lined yet, but that is gonna be our standard practice going forward so that everybody has a nice road. No more as-is roads. We're gonna go in, we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right.
I noticed a dirt road that I go on frequently. Part of it, they put this ground up asphalt.
Yes, sir.
They put it down, but then they didn't put it down on all of it. And I noticed after this last rain that it is like driving on a washboard.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can,
Typically what happens whenever you start getting the washboarding effect, it's because usually it coming into a corner or you're on a hill.
It's
What
on a
happens
hill.
is you have acceleration and de-acceleration at that point. So cars are actually creating that. There's really not a whole lot we can do other than come back in and clean it back up the next time whenever the grader comes through. It's kind of something you can't help because of the traffic flow. It happens in certain spots and doesn't in others. It's kind of weird, but it seems like when you have more braking or acceleration in that particular spot, you'll get that little bit of washboarding. But they cut it out and clean it back up. But you were talking about the millings that they put out there. That is something that we participate with, usually some of the state aid projects or RDOT, when we are allotted a certain percentage of that, and we stockpile that and we try to use that whenever we can in some more of the worse areas. So we're looking at new ways to try to help that. Another thing that we're doing with the chip seal on the bottom, if there's a lot of red clay, we've been using a chemical to kind of come in and stabilize that as well. So we're trying some innovative things that haven't been done in the past to try to bring everything, because it all depends on the subgrade. If the subgrade's no good, everything on top fails.
I would say on your original question though about the rotation of the graders.
Yes, sir.
You know, like Bart said before, we inherited this negotiation that we're working on. In a perfect world, I think that it is wise to, but the contracts that were signed, they're all expiring this
Gotcha.
next year.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to tell you though, they've done a great job on that road. They really have.
Well, it's my people, and I'll speak for them. They do a great job day in and day out, and they work very hard, and I'm very blessed to have the crew that I have below me.
JP Rio Stafford?
Thank you, Chair. I think my question got answered, but let me see if I got it right. My question was going to be similar to what JP Bruns asked. Because it seems like we have similar to with the insurance, this is a case where we have option 1 and option 2, right? So option 1 is going to be the rentals, option 2 is going to be buying out the cats. And so
I would say option 2 is buying new graders, because it's
Buying
only,
new-
it's
okay.
only 300,000 or 400,000, depending
to buy,
on.
yeah, that's,
Depending on the trade-in value. So if that is drastically different, that's one of the things is, there's a lot of unknowns with one bid. There's not a lot of unknowns with the other bid.
okay, got it. So option 1 is renting, option 2 is buying new ones, which one is neutral to the budget, and the other one would add about, we don't know.
At least 1.6 million.
1.6, okay,
At least, depending on that trade-in value.
got it, okay.
Which, like we were saying, roads is tight, that would definitely have to come out of county general.
Okay, okay. So my question was gonna be, was there an option 3 where you split the difference, like JP Bruns was saying about just doing half and half? And it sounds like the reason is twofold. One is because those current number one,
They're all expiring, the contracts
They're
are
all
all
expiring at the same
expiring
time.
this next year.
got it. So it would
Yep.
mean it would mean basically buying new ones or buying out the old ones and trying to limp along with those.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't,
you know.
I don't advocate for that
Yeah,
option.
okay. And
Just because there's a lot of unknowns on
Yeah.
like maintenance and et cetera, et cetera.
do we need to get the graders more staggered going forward, or is that okay how it is?
And that's another great point about buying them all at the one time. Because we are buying in bulk, we're getting a significant discount on these pieces of equipment because it is a larger amount.
Yeah.
Nobody else would get this price with a smaller price point. You're talking about a significant price increase if you bought 1 or 2 versus the 13.
Okay, got it, all right. Okay, all right, thank you.
JP Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I made my questions as you were talking there, so some of them may have been touched on a little bit, but why no written contracts or anything written down for us to be presented tonight? We talked about formats, how things are supposed to come to the quorum court, and we have absolutely nothing in paper in front of us.
As far as the details we're talking,
Contracts. Mhm.
the actual contracts?
No,
I mean, we could
you-
do a talking paper similar, but the actual contracts, I mean, that would be, we could do it, but as.
Well, even talking point
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah, I could do a talking point paper for sure. Part of this deal is we've become experts, and Bart and I were meeting until right before we got here, you know? So I was not comfortable putting everything on paper because I wasn't, we're
Well-
still working the details.
We come and sit here and we're supposed to make a buying decision for, you know, with you. And, you know, we don't get to study it except for the few minutes that we're
Right.
sitting here. So I don't like that.
Well, and I can do the talking paper and send it out, and then
Well,
we
that's
could
fine.
discuss
We're
it.
we're gonna vote here in a minute, so.
I don't think we're voting on this one, not right now. This is just info, because this will be in the budget, which will
No.
get voted on.
Okay, all right. So if my other question is, if we're trading in cats, I would think Caterpillar would give us a better deal on buying them back than John Deere would. Am I incorrect in that thinking?
Again, that was kind of what we talked about. They did give the inflated price. It's not, it's not super inflated, but it is to the tune of about $70,000 a grader. But then again, that price that they gave us was the price that was at the time of the inspection, which was back in June and July. So they did not give us a fair trade value of February.
Okay, so John Deere we're not trading them in to John Deere?
John Deere was actually going to take and purchase these, and they're going to sell them outright. They are going to purchase them and take them in.
So what I'm asking is, who's giving us a better deal? I mean, a better price?
At this time, we can't say 100% because what I can tell you with certainty is I know this number from John Deere. This is what they've said they'll do, and they're going to stick to that number. Cat has said, this is what we give you if you'll trade back at this time, but there's circumstances, and we've run these graders for the last 6-7 months. We're gonna bring them in, then they're gonna reevaluate.
Well, I understand that.
And
I
then,
understand
and
that.
if you give them the contract, then you're bound to that contract, so you don't know if you're getting the best deal or not. So it's really, at the end of the day, it's, do you want the certainty, or are you willing to roll the dice to get what you think you might get from Caterpillar?
I like certainties. Any kickback or gratuities on either company?
Say that again?
Any kickbacks or gratuities offered by either company?
No, sir. I like to think that I report to a higher power than that, and he'll judge me a lot harsher than anybody around this circle. That is not in my wheelhouse, sir.
Very good, thank you.
JP Pond?
Yes, I want to make sure I'm understanding this. Well, I'm pretty sure I do. And I'm kind of like, I believe that'd be kind of like you. I'm more interested in the lease, and I'm more interested in staying with the new equipment. Might not necessarily, if I was doing that for myself, I might not be. But when we're talking about a large fleet of equipment, and we've got employees, we're paying them enough to make a living. The thing that maybe you're not figuring into this equipment cost is when you start getting that older equipment and you have downtime, that employee still draws he still draws the same amount of money per hour. You gotta find something for him to do. Now, this is me talking to the choir.
No, sure. And you're absolutely correct. I have one, just an example that it keeps asking for a regen, and the gentleman has to shut that grader down and do a regen at least 3 times a day, and that shuts him down for 30 minutes. So I'm losing him for at least an hour and a half a day just because of the equipment.
They can't just slow it down and run it at a lower.
No, sir. It completely shuts him down, derates him, and he has to regen.
Isn't that modern stuff a miracle?
I would say that's key too. The modern stuff is something that is hard to do maintenance on. It's computerized, it's all this stuff. You have to rely on the company to come.
We have so many unknowns to deal with at budget time. And I see the need to, because you present a budget as well, besides us looking at it. You present a budget you gotta stand behind. And the more unknowns are in there, the more likely it is you'll have to come back at the middle of the year and say, well, we didn't know this was gonna happen.
Yes, sir, and that's a large part of our maintenance cost is the graders. So if you take that piece out of our budget, I mean, that's a piece that we know that we're gonna have the lease payment every year in that budget cycle. So if we can take the maintenance piece out, that does free up and makes it a whole lot easier to budget for sure.
Not trying to be lazy about it, I'm just all for eliminating as many of the unknowns as I can. And I don't have a problem with you working with the dealer that you can work with the best. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I'm going to draw a conclusion based on our discussion. I want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong. Basically, that 4.5% is paying for your maintenance. If we buy them and try to do that maintenance, it's going to cost us more than that 4.5% would cost us. Am I leaning? Okay. Appreciate that. JP Rio Stafford.
Thank you. I remembered my other question. So in my field, which is the digital creative field, things have over time gradually moved with software like the Adobe Suite, things like that. you know, you used to buy software, like you'd get a disk in the mail, you know, and load it, and you'd have your own copy of it. You'd actually, you know, own it. You'd own a license of it. Now it's moved to a monthly subscription model where it all downloads off the net, the updates get sent to you, you pay a monthly subscription to it, instead of actually owning, you know, Adobe 6 or Adobe 7 or whatever. You know, it just gets constantly updated and you just lease it. That's the way things have sort of in general moved, you know, across the board with software, especially creative software. Is that sort of something similar is happening in the equipment world?
Sure.
Is this sort of the direction things are going, or is this just sort of a either-or option?
A little bit, I mean, my background, I was with J.B. Hunt for 33 years before coming to the county. So on the equipment side, what you see is everybody has innovation every year. They try to push something new out. It's just the new widget.
Yeah.
So on the back side of that, not only do you have that new widget that you have to have software to support, you also have to have the technician to support that as well. These OEMs are going out and having to do all of the legwork, pay their technicians to learn this new software, whereas if we stay underneath their maintenance umbrella, we're not having to fight that fight. We can still work on a few of the things that we are capable of, but I'm not having to send a half a dozen technicians to an on-site facility to learn the new software to work on one of these things if it's out of my umbrella. So yeah, that's another added benefit for us.
That's another consideration, yeah. Okay, all right. Yeah, thank you for that.
So Comptroller Sherman, if you're gonna write a budget ordinance and try to bring it into quorum court to vote, what's coming into that? Are you planning to put the lease option in, and then we can talk to it from that standpoint if we want to?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, just.
And you could still talk to it?
No, that's fine, just so that we all know what's coming. You talked about maintenance a little bit ago. Is greater maintenance in your budget that we have in front of us right now?
Absolutely. We look at the parts breakdown from the year before. Tires is a huge part of that. Of course, that won't go away, and grater blades as well. We look at the routine stuff that we have to have. It's the uncertainties that kill you.
So, but the benefit of this is that maintenance for grader we talked about would probably go down.
100%.
Not having to do it. And just, again, baselining for everybody.
And as you know, maintenance just goes up. So as long as we're only doing the consumables and you're not having to pay for a brand new after-treatment device, I mean, yeah, it'll definitely save us some money in the long run.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of that equation of selling from the cloud, so that's fine. Any other questions? Comptroller Sherman, any other subjects?
No, sir, unless there's any other overall budget questions, I think. And you can always shoot those questions to me if you think of one later, too.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for your time.
Item 7 is the Washington County Conservative District presentation. If you remember, we provide them funding, and they're here to tell us, give us some information about the last year. Ms. Sarah Overton's here to present for us. I think the presentation's in your packets as well.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. And thank you for allowing me the time to come and speak with you tonight, and for, of course, taking the time for your time to be here. So I appreciate you. I'm here to talk about the Washington County Soil and Water Conservation District. We operate here in Fayetteville out of the USDA Service Center. Our fiscal year runs from July to June, which is different than most, but that's why some of you are seeing me here. I was here previously in the spring for our 2025 request, which was delayed due to my maternity leave. That was happening about this time last year. So I come to you today for our request for fiscal year 2026, which started in July. So a summary of the work we completed by for last fiscal year was we did achieve our annual goal of, can you guys hear me okay? Okay, great. We did achieve our annual goal of 130 nutrient management plans written for the county. These are required by the state of Arkansas for anyone applying phosphorus in the nutrient surplus areas, which are the White River and the Illinois River watershed, as well as Lee Creek, way, way, way down south. So we're very proud that we achieved our goals this year for our Kenyon Lake and our earthen dam maintenance. We did some beaver dam eradication. There's some images from that. We do have some more work ahead of us, hopefully this month, as the rainwaters are finally receding from our earthen dam lakes over there. For the fiscal year 2025, our partnership with the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service, or the NRCS, resulted in $1.43 million coming into the county across 32 contracts through cost share programs with county landowners. And of course, that covers a whole sweeping group of practices that farm owners came to NRCS wanting to help install on their land. Poultry farming does continue to be very successful here in the county. We've got over 1,000 poultry houses, and we are building more every day. No more turkey houses, though. So we did have the departure of Cargill this year. That was another occurrence that we helped a lot of our farmers navigate as they shut down their turkey operations or prepared to transition to butterball or transition their poultry operations to a different type of poultry management. And of course, their annual poultry registration, this is what poultry growers here in the state have to perform every year, used to be done at the county level. And 2 years ago, it was switched to Little Rock taking over to an online system. So they did it for the first year, they did it online, and then this last year was their second year doing it. They did issue non-compliance letters for the first time. So Little Rock sent out non-compliance letters to poultry farmers across the state, informing them they were not compliant with current regulations. So we then were able to work with a lot of our county owners, reached out to us. They knew that we could help them immediately as the state became very backed up very quickly. So we did help them navigate that issue and get them ready for next year, which starts in January. So that'll be our third year of online poultry registration. And we continue to encourage our poultry farmers to reach out to myself here in the county. We are ready to help you and assist you if you do not have online access, if you do not have if you just have any questions. That's what we're here for.
JP Dennis?
Thank you. Just say you don't want to take this one if you don't want to take it, but you have any opinion, especially since people were talking about wind turbines?
The wind turbines?
Yes, and a lot of it is in this area.
We have not, the district has not.
Got an opinion on it, is what I'm asking.
Have we what?
Do you have an opinion about it?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
And then finally, as you move on, this year we did do a big push with our board, as well as myself, to become more connected and networked in with our local nonprofits, attending lots of outreach events, pasture walks, trying to come to more community meetings. Our co-quorum court meeting, we did attend that as well, just again, as the area develops, and of course, as the district, as I develop with the district, as we move ahead and pursue new opportunities in the counties with, of course, different cost share, equipment, all sorts of great things. Are there any specific questions I can answer?
JP Lopez?
As you noted, you were at that meeting. When we're talking about, growth and greater impermeable surfaces being applied in the county, I don't know if there's an official stance or if that you have opinions on how we're building and how those affect waterways, but do you have a stance that we should be aware of?
Well, the meeting, wow, they did talk about how we will be doubling our population here in the next 25 years, but they're not planning to double the water. I've talked, so I did see that. Could you repeat your question?
I'm comfortable with wherever it takes you, but if you had a stance on how building would affect our waterways, because I know as we build, we add more impermeable surface, we get more runoff, we increase the possibility that things flood. Is there a stance where, is sprawl something that you'd like to avoid? Would you like to concentrate the areas that have impermeable surfaces? Or to what extent do you have an opinion on that matter?
I did attend the IRWP event that they hosted at Mount Sequoia about the new stormwater tax that you guys are starting here in Fayetteville. I did some research into the Tahlequah, Oklahoma. So there's a lot of areas being exploratory because they know that there are issues that are going to come forward. Our objective is to assist farmers and landowners with their private land operation. I get calls every week from people, I've never had a problem before, but there's 2 new houses next door and all of a sudden I have a problem. What am I gonna do? And we can, go out and visit with them and look at this, but like you said, just the attention to the detail and having this kind of cohesive plan moving forward, especially I do operate a lot with Tanya Reams, who's my Benton County counterpart. But when it does come, of course, to the county roads and these impermeable surfaces, the more permeable surfaces like the dirt roads, there are state programs through the 319 grant program that the district can apply for to bring funds to the local county to improve possibly dirt roads that are in need of pave, or we can also target the unpaved driveways that serve multiple homes, that there are state programs available through the 319 program. And of course, we have just started to apply for those here. We did apply for a Title 10 319 cost share that if we do get picked up, we can start our own local scale cost share program that won't be operating through the federal system here in the future. So I would say that if we do want to look into those, what the district can do moving forward for these dirt roads, these permeable surfaces, would then of course be through that State of Arkansas Natural Resources Division 319 program, which is multifaceted. It's not just streamways, it's not just stream restoration. There are these dirt road programs as well.
Thank you.
JP Massengale?
Yes, thank you for your report. I just have there was a lot of information. I was trying to keep up with a lot of it. I just had one question. You talked about that you, I think I heard right, that you had issued some non-compliance letters. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? I was trying to understand what
Okay,
that
so
meant.
those were Little Rock through the state.
The state issued non-compliance letters?
They
to you?
did. So every year, a poultry operation with more than 2,500 birds has to register with the state of Arkansas. They have to register how many birds they produce, how many flocks they raise, how many tons of manure and poultry litter that they produce, as well as where it is transferred to or where it's applied and in what quantity. This is done from January 1st through March 31st of every year, and it comes with a $10 fee. In the past, this has been done through the conservation districts at the county level. We would stuff envelopes and make phone calls and go do field visits and stay in the office, and have them call in. But that changed 2 years ago when the Little Rock, the more central state office, wanted to become more involved in that. So rather than doing the paper forms, they switched over to an online system, which then create our own account, password, use a debit card, those types of things. A lot of farmers then fell out because they fell in the crack where they weren't notified. on their end that they needed to do the registration unless they called someone, asked around. And so that first year that happened, everyone who registered, and that was that. Now, last year, they did the same thing. They sent email reminders. More people called their network and said, hey, make sure you do this online thing. I'll send you the email. Or they called us and said, hey, I never got it last year, and then I didn't get it this year. Can you help me out here? And we would contact them. Now, if they didn't have it done by March 31st of 2025, Little Rock issued a non-compliance letter, which said that if they did not bring their operation into compliance and do their $10, there's a 61-cent online processing fee. So if they did not do their online registration, they would receive a $500 fine. And if they did not respond to that, then there are additional measures that the state could consider if they did not do their annual registration.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
J.P. Ricker?
Yes, ma'am. So you gave us the talk about what all you do. I assume since there's an invoice at the end of this, you're asking for $20,000 for next year's budget, or since your year runs 25, 26, sorry, your year runs 25, 26, is this in the 25 budget or 26 budget?
That is for the current 2026 budget. So for this year that we are currently in.
Comptroller
Fiscal year
Sherman?
that we are currently in.
Where's this at? Is this in our 26 budget that we would pay out of?
I believe so, but I'll have to check on it for sure.
I
but
think it is,
I believe
too.
it is.
I think so, okay.
Is this the same amount that we paid previous?
Yes. Yes. This has been a standing understanding between the county and the district for quite some
MOU?
time. Yes, and there is an MOU, yeah, it's in the packet, and that $20,000 amount has not changed in the considerable past.
Okay.
I want to say back to the 1960s, 61, I believe, was the original MOU.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You're a little late, sir. J.P. Bond.
All the time. You kind of touched on some things there. I know you deal more with agri and these lakes and stuff like that than you do. But just, I know you're there as an educational type of organization. But I believe, unless it got changed in our last zoning ordinance change, we still have like a 1 acre minimum lot size requirement for the most part of Washington County, except for there was some Goshen growth area that had a 2 acre minimum. As far as storm drain runoff goes, occasionally we have developers come in and they want to do maybe a couple or 3 houses to the acre. Most of the time, would that not more strongly affect the storm drain runoff situation if we start crowding more houses per acre? Or is that something that I shouldn't be asking?
Well, it could include, for the house per acre, how large is that house? Does it take up the majority of the acre? Like in downtown Bentonville, is your rooftop all the way to the curb? Are you having a nice big concrete double parking area?
The more hard surface, the more runoff you're going to have.
Typically, that will be the, will affect the rate. But then if you look at your dirt roads, you then look at adding the element of sediment into the water.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Item 8 is an Illinois River Watershed Partnership presentation by Mr. Leif Kinberg, the Executive Director.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm Leif Kinberg. I'm the Executive Director of the Illinois River Watershed Partnership. I'm going to try, do we have some slides coming up? Okay. I'm going to try to present. I probably should have taken some guidance from Sarah on her presentation. It's going to be hers was a little briefer than mine is, but I'll try to move through these slides pretty quickly. And I think you'll find them interesting, and hopefully it will help answer some of the questions that I've heard. The Conservation District does outstanding work, as you all know, I think, full well, and I think there's some opportunities to address unpaved roads and some of the washboard that was talked about earlier, as well as some of the grant funding that is designed for Washington County unpaved roads that can be applied for by the county. So our mission, we're celebrating 20 years this year, the Illinois River Watershed Partnership. Our mission is to improve the integrity of the watershed through public education, outreach, and implementation of restoration and conservation practices. And we do that primarily in Arkansas, but we're really a joint state, dual state organization working in both Oklahoma and Arkansas. We are governed by a 21-member board, 6 stakeholder categories that really are designed to represent the many diverse interests in Washington County and Benton County and across the watershed. That includes many of the names of businesses and construction companies and others that some of you are familiar with, including some of you probably work for and serve on this board of directors. We really focus on consensus-based solutions, try to reduce some of the temperature around some of the growth questions, and try to really focus on practical solutions to address water quality in this watershed, which has a long history, as you all know. These are some of our programs. They range from everything from public education, as I mentioned, to water quality monitoring. We run a septic tank replacement program I'll talk about, riparian restoration and landowner services. So we'll talk a little bit about some of these. But let me start with just a little bit of a state of the river. How are we doing in the watershed? As I mentioned, it's got a long history of water quality challenges and management considerations. And so I'm going to share just a little bit about that. This is the watershed map for those that may not be familiar. Here in Fayetteville, we're right in the headwaters of it. About half of Washington County is in the watershed as well. So it's very important to the economic growth and development of the county historically and moving forward as well. We talked about your question about flooding and impervious surface. This is a little graphic that I borrowed from the city engineer here in Fayetteville, actually. But you can see this is a cross-section of a stream channel before construction and after development, as we're seeing it across the county. And I want to just point to, can't use the laser, but on the lower side, when we regrade and fill in stream channels, which is legal to do under with proper permitting, we end up displacing that water and pushing it on to our neighbors downstream and across the stream and elsewhere. And we're seeing that across this county. I think many of you can attest to the increase in flooding that we have, the challenges we face as it relates to that. And it's frequently due in part to this type of decision making. And I think you heard I was at the growth meeting that took place 2 weeks ago. And I think looking forward in the development and the growth trajectory that we have in the county, zoning and thinking forward about how we grow smart in Washington County is going to be really critical. And I want to draw your attention to this particular challenge that the whole county is facing and we are going to increasingly face moving forward. Since 2017, we've been doing stream bank erosion assessments in the county. I think that it won't those that live out in the county will be very familiar with this. But our streams are eroding very rapidly. If this will advance. Maybe there we go. This is the confluence of Clear Creek and the Illinois River right out by Savoy. On average, you're losing at this site 11.5 feet per year in this, and that's partially due to those upstream decisions that we are making in the Clear Creek and Illinois River watersheds, meaning there's more flow, it's higher velocity, and it has to move off of impervious surfaces and into these channels and move down stream, and it's eroding our downstream stream banks. Yep.
Just north of that, is that Town, that area, which is?
This is Fayetteville, actually. Clear Creek comes right out of Fayetteville here and moves, confluences at the Illinois River at Savoy, near the Savoy Bridge.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The question was this Tawny Town? Or you're saying no, it was, my mic wasn't on.
Oh, I apologize.
For
Yeah.
the public to hear my question. And you're saying, no, this is, Clear Creek is from the Fayetteville area.
Primarily,
I'm
yes.
saying that because I used to go out to church out at House Savoy and
Yes.
go over that bridge, and you would see that. So I
That's
didn't know if
right.
it was coming in from the north,
Yes,
Or-
it's coming in actually from the east.
from the east.
Yeah. The Illinois River is running south to north in this particular spot,
Okay.
location. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Trying to
And
get
it's
my
just an
bearings straight.
example of what is happening in the watershed. We're losing about 20 acres per year of usable productive land downstream. The sediment, the nutrients is all headed into Oklahoma in this case, which is partially the reason the IRWP exists. So that's an example just of we've been measuring these cross sections, and you can see that erosion over time will continue. This is another site just downstream on Illinois. It's losing about 18 feet on average. If you averaged it over these study years, it will slow down, it will change, it'll shift to another location is what we've found over and over again. And so this is a real challenge moving forward. The state funded a study by in partnership with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to figure out what was causing flooding and some of these challenges in the Illinois River watershed, and particularly, well, really the whole upper watershed in Arkansas is what this focused on. Just a few key takeaways from it. Increasing precipitation is definitely driving some of this. There's no doubt that we are getting more rain and it's more concentrated in the watershed in northwest Arkansas, so that's driving it. We are also building a lot more, and we have a lot more impervious surface with a lot more runoff, to your question earlier. And so that is also driving it. But there are things we can do about it. The study finds that if we do really protect our riparian buffers, 50 to 100 feet back, and we do really proactively address those areas along the river and tributaries, we can slow down some of the flooding, we can decrease some of the flooding, particularly related to channel velocity and flow. And just in the map, you can kind of see how much of an flow increase we are seeing over the last several years in different areas of the watershed. So the red is basically Fayetteville, and then down towards Prairie Grove, some places that do have very high impervious surface rates, lots of parking lots, lots of pavement. In terms of water quality overall, the state monitors water quality in the watershed, and we have a lot of streams that do not meet what we call their designated use thresholds, meaning they're high quality for drinking water or recreation, swimming, things like that. And that's due to things like E. coli that is in these creeks. It can be due to phosphorus, it can be due to sulfate and other things. But they're being monitored, and we continue to have several of these streams that don't meet those requirements. And we are working on that. There is a state standard set through a joint statement of principles between the state of Arkansas and the state of Oklahoma that sets 0.037 milligrams per liter phosphorus. I think those that have been around for a while will recognize and remember some of those conversations in the early days. There is still an ongoing lawsuit over this particular issue around phosphorus in the watershed. But I think the reason I put these couple next slides up is because I want to also commend the work that has been done. Wastewater treatment plants and the work that the Conservation District, that poultry farmers and others have done has made significant progress towards that state standard that's required of 0.037 milligrams. And you can see in the trend lines in both of these, the top and bottom, one is just a 3-month rolling average in the data, and the other is actually discrete measurements discrete measurements being on the top and then the rolling average on the bottom. But both of them have trend lines, and you can see we're making significant progress over time. This goes back to, I think, 2000. If you truncate that data set, however, there are some concerns, and that is that if you go back, I think this says 2019 or so, that trend line has flattened out in some areas of the watershed and even increasing in this particular example. This is the South of Siloam Springs. In other watersheds, I should say streams that are being monitored for phosphorus, we see a continued downward trend line, which is really where we want to be and we want to continue. And the work that the county does, whether it be unpaved roads or how you manage development as a county, is critical to the future progress of this, there's no doubt. I want to just highlight a program that I'm very proud of that we just wrapped up at the end of last year, our riparian restoration program. It started in 2019. It funded very similarly to some of the conservation practice that Ms. Overton presented, things like off-stream watering facilities and livestock exclusion and other things. But it also worked on urban projects in urban communities around the watershed and throughout Washington County. You can see just at the bottom, we wanted to protect or restore about 20 miles. That was the kind of one of our goals, have off-stream watering, et cetera. So I'm going to just share a little bit of the highlights from that. What we were after with this program is to address many concerns to the watershed. They ranged from removing waterways from that impairment list that I presented earlier to supporting higher quality forage for livestock through rotational grazing systems, improving overall water quality, et cetera. So we had a lot of expected outcomes. These are photos. You'll see a lot of photos of projects throughout these slides. But that's what we were after with the program. Let's see here. There we go. We did a lot of outreach and engagement, working with landowners on those practices to implement them. 688 landowners over time. We had about 214 landowners in field tours, et cetera. This is a brief profile on the right of just a farm project that we worked, so you can kind of see that we were doing a lot of permanent perimeter and electric rotational grazing fencing, restoring woodlands, building ponds so the livestock have access, really designed to support the farmer manage their property in a better way, in a way they wanted to, that also coincidentally directly improved water quality. And so that's what we were after with the program. Okay. We had a lot of project partnerships, 35 projects overall is what we implemented. We had 14 financial partners to make this work, meaning a lot of communities and nonprofit partners and others that were involved, including Washington County, worked closely with the roads department on replacing a bridge crossing and restoring upstream and downstream, stabilizing it out on County Road 86, which definitely addressed both a sediment problem going into the Illinois and also improved and protected the infrastructure that the county had invested in that road by stabilizing the downstream section. So those types of partnerships are what we work with the county on regularly. I would certainly try to, and so that's what we've been doing. This is kind of just some overall metrics. I'll just point that we exceeded our original goals on most of this, 21.8 miles of stream enhanced, restored, or protected. And I want to just highlight that about a little under $900,000 of that funding was invested in Washington County through projects working with landowners here in the county. Another project on the right that we implemented. Some other key programs, our septic tank replacement and repair program, hopefully a few of you are familiar with it. That program provides zero interest loans or grant funding depending upon income. It's a sliding scale depending on income, and replaces or repairs a septic system that's failing for a homeowner. We have been implementing that for about 4 years at this point. and we can provide a loan that's up to 5 years in duration. We've completed 97 projects in Benton and Washington County in the last 4 years, and 60 of those projects, about $751,000, have been invested in Washington County for the whole program. I think we're at about $1.3 million invested between Washington and Benton counties. So Washington County has certainly benefited significantly from the program. Just wanted to highlight a couple projects. This is an example of a poultry farmer out in Summers. They had a failing septic system. The way it works is they contacted us and the Department of Health. The Department of Health found that the system was failing, and then we can step in and work with them to get bids and get that system installed. Yeah, it's a fantastic program and really helpful, particularly to landowners that may or may not have the resources to cover fairly expensive costs, particularly as materials costs goes up. This is another retiree on a fixed income who was eligible for a 90% grant in this case and a 10% loan. And that was really critical to getting this project done, making certain that he had a functioning septic system that was not a health risk to the family as well. And they failed for all kinds of reasons: lateral fields, surfacing effluent, lateral fields being maybe driven over with construction equipment, trees growing into them, et cetera. And that's when we get calls. It's usually toilets aren't flushing, there's water on the surface of the ground, something like that. Just generally, did I skip a slide there? Yeah, I did. The other program we implement is our youth education programming. We have a full-time certified teacher on staff who leads that in the classroom and through field trips at our learning center based in Cave Springs. Last year, we worked with over 9,000 students in Washington, Benton counties, as well as in northeast Oklahoma in the watershed. We trained another 264 teachers to hopefully deliver those lessons without us doing so. So really building capacity to do it. And over 6,000 of those students were in Washington County, which is about a 79% increase from the previous year. So we've expanded that work. It's really high quality lessons. It's things that they're not going to get through the public education system currently that teach them about what is the Illinois River watershed and how can they improve it, take personal responsibility to manage it moving forward. So it's a really great program for youth. Outreach results, we cleaned up about 6,800 pounds of trash from the Illinois River. A lot of it originates in the headwaters here in Washington County. And so it's been very successful. We've done a lot of outreach and partnership events, working with a lot of volunteers. I think we had over a full-time position just in volunteer labor in the last year, so significant volunteer effort. And just significant increase year over year. We're trying to really grow this and ensure that we take care of this watershed moving forward. A lot of field tours. These are all photos from events that we do put on. Just looking forward, and I'm about to wrap up. I know I'm running a little longer than probably it's late. In last year in November, the watershed management plan for the Illinois River watershed here in Arkansas was finalized in partnership with Natural Resources Division and many stakeholders throughout. There were multiple stakeholder meetings to get input on what are the priorities for managing water quality. What are the best management practices that people want to see implemented? Everything from poultry operations to urban growth challenges. That prioritized where we are going to work in the watershed. You can see that kind of in the map in terms of where those priority watersheds are. And so we are doing that. That plan was approved by EPA and is now kind of the guide that we use for further implementation. But I want to just emphasize that it was entirely a participatory, partnership-driven plan that had a lot of public input from throughout the counties here in the watershed, and Benton and Washington County specifically. Just looking forward, we did get our first dual state grant from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation to work with private landowners and public landowners to develop conservation plans for those properties to improve water quality. And so it's a really a testament to both the work and collaboration, the partnership and others, but also the first opportunity we've really had to work across both states. We just hosted the Arkansas River Compact Commission, which is a dual state, joint state effort to improve water quality. And they've been around since 1970, and this new funding program will help support some of the goals that they're after, which is really collaboration and joint implementation of projects between both states. Just another project looking forward, we did just receive about $2.4 million to support the state on restoration at the Prairie Grove battlefield. That will restore it and preserve kind of the heritage and of that site while improving water quality in that historic prairie, bringing it back to what it was probably around the Civil War and even earlier to some degree. And so it's a very exciting project that we're pleased to be able to move forward on. And this just provides information on that. I just want to wrap up by saying Washington County has been an important partner to the work that we do. We really could not do this work without the county's support financially, in kind, and just partnership in general on moving some of these projects forward. Historically, the county has supported us at $5,000 a year. Benton County supports us at $10,000 a year. I would really like the counties to be equal. There's probably pretty close in terms of the watershed and the amount of work we do. It's in both counties. And so I don't have an invoice for you tonight, but I'd like you to consider that and just really appreciate the partnership with the county. I'd be happy to take any questions. And I did leave one of these. Hopefully you've got it on your desk. This provides an overview of some of what I talked about, but also some other programs that we implement.
Any questions? J.P. Rio Stafford.
Thank you. Thank you for this great presentation and presenting all the work you all do, which is a wide range of stuff over a wide area. I remember a few years ago, I went on a tour where a lot of elected officials got invited from both counties, Washington and Benton County. And it was super informative to actually go and see some of these sites. I remember we saw a piece of land that had recently been donated for open space. We saw an area where there was stream bank restoration going on by one of subcontractors, I believe. You know, and pictures are fantastic, and this is filled with some fantastic pictures, but actually seeing these sites in person is a whole, you know, other level of really understanding what goes into all this and what you all do and what the needs and concerns are in our county, especially with our booming population, as we saw, you know, on that one slide. Any chance of doing another field tour with elected officials at some point? Maybe, I know the last one, all the sites were in Benton County, in southwest Benton County, and it looks like there's definitely activity happening in Washington County with the Prairie Grove battlefield. From that one map, it looked like there were a lot of streams that needed work, especially near the closer, it looked like the closer you got to urban Fayetteville, the more the streams needed work. Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the possibility of that, because I think it would be really beneficial to go out and see some of this stuff in person again. And that was a few years ago, and there's been a lot of turnover on this quorum court since then.
Sure. I'll address two elements. One is that map of the flood study, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that you mentioned. It's really, it's kind of a hotspot map of where is flooding occurring and where is it occurring most significantly. And so we could look more in depth at that, but it's basically a percentage increase. And so those red areas, to your point, are areas that, hey, we should be looking closely at those for opportunities to reduce some of the flooding risk, flooding impacts, I should say, that are driven by precipitation, but also impervious surface, and how can we find solutions? So yes, to that point. In terms of our float field tours, sometimes we call them, absolutely. I would be delighted to take any one of you on one of these trips, and if you don't mind, I'll just send you an email when our next one comes up and get it on your calendar. And we usually have lunch on the river, talk about this work in more depth, kind of pick a project or a couple projects. The challenge is you can't float this section up here through Greenland, or not Greenland, but through Prairie Grove very well, and so we're always a little further, which ends up in Benton County, unfortunately. But there's pplenty to look at, and maybe we can do a field tour to the Prairie Grove site as we're doing that restoration as well.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure.
Any other questions? Comptroller Sherman, similar question. Do we know where this is at in the budget? If not, can you let us know, please? Okay. Thank you, sir. Item 9 is an ordinance anticipating additional revenue in the amount of $197,041.82 in the Drug Court Grant Fund and appropriating $197.41.82 to the AG Opioid WCMC Grant Fund. I see Judge Belmont back there, or I did. Did you want to talk to this, ma'am? Beaumont, I'm sorry.
I've been called a lot worse even just today. So no, I don't need to say anything on it. It's free money and it helps us make our program survive, so.
Thank you, ma'am.
We love the AG.
J.P. Ricker.
Make a motion to pass full court with a due pass.
I heard somebody from over here, sorry. Okay, I have a motion to pass it on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Ricker, seconded by J.P. Lopez. Any discussion? Citizen comment?
Thanks and good evening. My name is Michelle Walchuk and I live at 1008 East Trust Street here in Fayetteville. Thanks for hearing my public comment. I currently serve as the president of our local chapter of the League of Women Voters of Washington County. And the League is a fiercely nonpartisan organization that works to empower and educate voters in our area.
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
Sir?
We
Sorry.
were looking
Public comment on
for
that,
comment
not just
on
general
this,
comment.
on this
Sorry.
ordinance. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Silly me, I apologize.
Okay,
I'll
thank
see
you. Any comments on this ordinance? I apologize.
Sorry about that.
No. Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, that passes. Item 10 is an ordinance recognizing additional revenue in the amount of $298,400.10 and appropriating $298,400.10 from unappropriated reserves in the general fund to the jail fund to various line items in the sheriff and jail budget for 2025. J.P. Ricker?
It's my understanding that these funds are what the sheriff's office has been reimbursed for deputies working off duty or like at the ball games and that type of stuff. So it's passed through. I make a motion to pass this to the full quorum court with a due pass.
Any additional discussion? Citizen comment for this ordinance? So I have a motion by J.P. Ricker and a second by J.P. Dennis to pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Item 11 is an ordinance amending ordinance 2025-76 to increase the pay for the members of the planning board and for other matters pertaining thereto. JP Massengale, do you want to introduce this?
Sure. So you can see it's written in the ordinance, the planning board members are currently at $75 a meeting. This was established in 2005. There hasn't been a raise since. I did some calling around some of the cities within Washington County. I didn't get all of them, but Fayetteville currently is $375 a month, which is 2 meetings. Town is $300 a meeting, and Elm Springs is $225 a meeting. So I feel like what I'm proposing here is $300 a meeting per member.
I didn't hear a motion, I'm sorry.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we pass this full court if there's no further discussion. I didn't know if we wanted to discuss this anymore or not. But. Okay.
Discussion? JP Rios Stafford?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to JP Massengale for bringing this forward. You know, you thought outside the box, which is sort of, I was thinking, what counties can we compare ourselves to? Just, you know, Benton and Pulaski County, they're like apples and oranges from us, right? And so you sort of thought outside the box to see, hey, what are cities paying their planning commission members? I'll say, I was very disappointed at last week's planning commission meeting to see that after all the new members were reappointed, only 4 of the 7 members were at that meeting. I was hoping that we would have better attendance going forward. That was one of the reasons. It made me honestly regret tabling my ordinance that I had at last month's Quorum Court meeting to increase the number of members of the planning board. I almost feel like I made a mistake by tabling that. But that was really in response to just solving the issue of getting new boards seated. I feel like we need to do something. We need to either, we've got a supply and, it seems to me like we have a supply and demand problem. Like when we have job openings in the county, like at the sheriff's department, for example, sometimes we have to raise the pay to attract more qualified candidates. It seems like, you know, we've heard before sometimes that the county struggles to find qualified people to fill these positions. Now there's even an additional barrier that the majority of the members of the planning board, which is why we had to seat a new board, the majority has to live in the unincorporated county. So that's an additional requirement that we have to do. I'm wondering if we need to both increase the number of members and increase the pay so that we attract some qualified people, but I feel like we have to do at least one or the other because we need a board that shows up, that's able to show up. Maybe some people don't have the capacity to do that, but if they don't, maybe, you know, we need to look at that. You know, we need to, there were a couple of major items that a lot of people showed up for that got tabled because it seemed like the applicants were worried that in order to get their items passed through the planning board, that every single planning member that was in attendance would have had to vote yes. And I think, you know, it seemed like the feeling by the applicants was they didn't want to roll the dice and they wanted to come back another month with better attendance. But I'm in favor of this. You know, I think we need to do something, and this is a step in the right direction. Thanks.
Well, and this will come to no surprise because I sent this out to everybody on this committee. I think comparing ourselves to the cities is the wrong comparison. I think that is an apples to an oranges comparison. I think where we need to stay is exactly what we've done previously when we've talked about a similar item, and that is look at the counties that are a Class 7, which would be us, Benton County, and Pulaski, and compare ourselves and look at where we should be based on that.
As we all know, Pulaski doesn't pay their planning board at all. Benton County just increased theirs from, I believe they were around 80 up to, I believe, 125 now. I do agree. I think we do need to do something, do need to raise it. I don't know, I don't agree with the 300 based on what the city does, but would agree to, would more support something more in line with what counties of our size are doing, which is the 125 Benton County's doing. Just my opinion at that point. JP Wilson.
Thank you, sir. I'll just say up front, I'm for a pay increase for these folks. It's long overdue. And I don't know, I know on the table right now, we got $300, which I'm thinking of, if I put myself in their shoes and what they've been dealing with, I don't know if I'd want to show up for less than 300. I mean, I'm sympathetic, but I'm also, you make a good point about, do we need to be in line with what others are doing. But I don't have a proposal for a definite amount, except that I'm ready to vote for a pay increase. And, I don't know where we should land on that, because if you say something less than 300 now that number's been out there, it makes, you run the risk of looking like someone who's trying to keep every dime away from some good people who are doing good work. But on the other hand, we're responsible to taxpayers for every expenditure, large and small. So I know that that's a discussion worth having as to where we need to land. But nobody's going to get an argument out of me about we're going to have to give them more money at the very least. So thank you.
JP Coger.
Yes, thank you, Chair. When will this take effect for the pay increase?
Based on the ordinance, it's how many days after it's passed?
No, I don't see it in the ordinance.
It'll be 30 days after it passes. Well, no, it's an appropriation ordinance, so it'll go into effect immediately.
Okay. Because it doesn't state it in the ordinance as to when it takes effect, so it'd be immediately. Correct? Did I get that right?
Okay, so how does it get in the budget for next year then? What do we need to do for that?
Director Ada would have to add it to his budget, give it to Comptroller Sherman to add in the budget that we pass. I believe Comptroller Sherman.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
JP Lopez.
I agree with some of the earlier sentiments here that obviously we have a problem getting this board to be there or be present, and I am partial to just trying an intervention. I think that this is one of the two that we've had proposed. It's either this or expanding the planning board. I think that this is a sufficient incentive, in my view, to get people to show up. I would be for it.
JP Bruns.
Thank you, sir. Well, I recall a item that came up about the pay for the quorum court. And at that point, there was no discussion on comparing us with another county. It was a discussion of surrounding people and municipalities. They were included in that. And I think we are in dire need to do something for that planning board. And I'm in favor, whether the $300 is, I think, is sufficient, I don't know. I would also like to have somebody look at the possibility that we've got an internal problem down there, because we always seem to have discourse in that area. And that's not because of the pay. So, I think we have a combination of things down there. And we just went through a really nasty takeover, shakeup of that planning board, which left a lot of residents in northwest Arkansas, or in Washington County especially, very upset the way it was handled. And I got phone calls like crazy. I don't know whether y'all did, but of the way it was handled. So I think there's more than just the money. I think we need to have some internal checks there. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, sir. I do want to correct one item you said. When we did the ordinance to increase the JP's pay, it was fully based on what the other counties of our size, Class 7, was getting paid. We were at about a Class 2 or 3, if I remember right, because I wrote the ordinance, I wrote the justification, I brought it to bear, and that was 100% my basis. Our pay was like a Class 2 county, we were Class 7. That, what we did was put us more in line with Benton County was doing and where they were at. So again, just appreciate your comments, but just want to make sure that's correct. And again, that's why I brought it up. I'm very consistent in, we need to be aligned. When we went through, what was it, those of you that were here, we went through the whole grading system for the county 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. And I think that was one of the items they were looking at, is bringing us along to be similar to the counties that of our class, I believe is what I heard. I wasn't here, so it's all what I heard. I believe that's what we should be looking at. That's the consistency we should base it on, is looking at those of us that are all Class 7. There's 3 of us. But again, that's why I brought that to bear. Thank you, sir. JP Ecke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to point out, I did reach out to the planning board members, and they are not serving for the money, is what they've said, plain and clear. It's not about the money. And they're not being derelict in their responsibilities when they don't show up for the meetings. Sometimes they're out of town due to business or other conferences, and that's the conflict that they have. They are very dedicated professionals, and scheduling happens that way. If you want, I'm not in favor of increasing the number of members on the board, because you're still going to need a quorum no matter how many you add to the board. But I would make a recommendation that you can designate an alternate to each board member that frequently is out of town or has to meet their business obligations. And if they can't make it, just like a substitute teacher, that board member can call up the alternate and say, I can't be there, can you attend? It's just a possibility, thinking outside the box. Increasing the pay is not going to increase people wanting to serve. Like I said, they said, we're not doing it for the money. We're doing it because we want to serve our community. So I think we need to think about really coming up with a good plan to move forward on this. I'm not in favor of $300. Just in January, we were making $200 per meeting. Just this past January, February, So that is a pretty big jump. And like I said, they're not doing it for the pay. I think we need to come up with a brainstorming strategy. Thank you.
JP Hires.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with many of my colleagues here. I feel like something has to happen. Either we increase their pay or we add some members to the board, because it's not successfully getting people to come to the meetings. And something that you brought up was that many of the a larger percentage of them have to come from outside of the county, so that increases driving time, the amount of time that they have to be away from their families. A lot of the same reasons that we gave ourselves a raise to $300. And I just really do think something has to happen, whether it's an increase in pay or an increase in members. And just to say, I mean, I haven't been serving all these years for the money, but that raise has not hurt my family at all, you know? So, and I can see the same for the members of the planning board as well. Thank you.
JP Rio Stafford?
Thanks. That was something too, actually, you brought, that made me think. $300 would put the planning board on par with quorum court committee meetings, which are also $300 a meeting. But I wanted to go back to the alternate idea. That is an interesting outside-the-box idea. Wanted to ask our counselor, is that something that would be legally allowed? The idea, it was J.P. Ecky's idea of designating members that couldn't be there, designating an alternate to show up in their place and vote in their place.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to
Okay.
research that, and I'm not prepared to answer that question right now.
Okay.
But I will look into that and submit something or give an update at some point.
JP Wilson?
For the sake of some clarity, and I know when we talk about this, right now on the table is a pay raise. And I know when we talk about the planning board, it is a complex, we're at a complex juncture with this, and we understand that that means a lot of other things enter the conversation. But no matter what's done in the future, I would urge all of my colleagues, consider a pay raise, voted up or down, either tonight or at another time. And if there's something done like increasing the size of this board or having people on standby who can sit in for someone else or whatever, that's a creative idea. But I think we need to deal with those separately. And tonight, it's the pay raise, and I would urge us just to go with that. I don't know if this would be popular or not, but just to speed along the conversation so that we can come to a consensus one way or another. Right now, there's a $300 pay increase in this proposal. I would like to offer an amendment that says it's $200, which is more in line with the sentiment of some, as I understand it in the room. People may be for this amendment, they may not be, but at some point before we leave this conversation, we need to agree on an amount that is to be considered. And I don't know if we built a consensus yet on that. So for the purpose of that discussion, I throw out that for consideration, a $200, which is still a pretty good raise percentage-wise. It's just not as much as what we talked about. And I'd like to find out how everybody feels about an amount, because nothing's been nailed down there yet. Thank you.
So I have a motion to amend the proposed ordinance to $200 instead of $300. Have a second discussion. Any additional discussion? JP Ecke?
Although I appreciate the direction that Justice Wilson is going, I believe if we've always said, let's compare ourselves county to county. Benton County's paying $125, and they just recently increased it to $125. I'd be good with $125, but $200 I'm still not good with, because these are appointed positions, not elected. And there's a big difference in responsibility between a quorum court member and a planning board member. Thank you.
JP Wilson?
I don't disagree with any of that, but I want to throw this out as well for our deliberation. As I understand it, and I'll be glad to be told I'm wrong, but the way this board wrestles through the CUP process, we got a kind of a unique animal here that some other counties never have to struggle with, or at least not to this extent. You factor that in with, we got a lot of growth as well. People are moving out into the county, it becomes even more prevalent. So I have to ask the question, is extra money available? Because they're dealing with some things that other people in Arkansas basically know nothing about because they're not in the same situation. So maybe that's a consideration to keep in mind as well. Thank you.
J.P. Pond?
I'd just kind of like to remind people on the court that that's the only pay they get is per diem for showing up at the planning board meeting. And if they're gonna be conscientious about what they're doing, the decisions they're gonna make, many times that board member might not be familiar with the area where that development's gonna be. Just like us, they don't have to, but they will drive out there and view the site where the development might take place. Maybe have an extra meeting or two with somebody down at the planning office. If they're fortunate enough and Sam has time to take them out there and show them and visit with them, give them a little more insight. There's a lot more time involved than just the lengthy meeting and all that goes with that. And I'm just saying, whether you vote it up or vote it down, you know, it's kind of like what we do in a lot of ways. There's more to it than just what we get paid for the meetings. There are a lot of other meetings and visits with constituents and that sort of thing. Thank you.
J.P. Bruns?
You know, when we talked about raising the quorum court, we were gonna raise it to 300, and that's when everybody decided we'd raise a whole lot more, to the point where we're the highest paid in the state now. I think that the 300 is not unreasonable for what we're asking them to do. There was something about the CUP. I've been hearing bad things about the CUP in the year that I've been on this quorum court. And there was an attempt by the administration to change that to a zoning.
Nothing to do with the agenda or the motion on the floor. We have a motion and a second regarding $200. It has nothing to do with the administration or what the quorum court members get paid.
J.P. Bruns, do you have any other discussion between the 200 and 300? That's the amendment on the floor.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
And all this CUP stuff hasn't changed. And it's still causing such a issue with planning that I don't think that the $300 is asking too much. I think we should put forward as much as we can, as much as we should. If that's $300 now, and then we look at it, then fine. But the situation is very, very, needs to be very settling down there in planning to help this board do a better job of knowing what is wanted by the public. That's what it's for. Thank you.
Okay. Any, J.P. Rickers?
Thank you, sir. I just want everyone to be aware, and I am not 100% certain on this. Currently, planning gets paid $75 a meeting, once a month, or for however many meetings a month.
It's per meeting. Based on the current ordinance that he's changing, it's $75 per meeting attended, not to exceed 4 meetings in 1 month.
That's the current.
That's there. So it'd be, board shall receive $300 per meeting attended, not to
if we
exceed
raise
4
the pay-
meetings in 1 month.
Okay, if we raise the pay to $300 per meeting, not to exceed 4 meetings a month, you'll end up having to budget $100,000 for the salaries for that. If you move it at 200, that's 67,000. That's what the new budget will have to be for that amount.
J.P. Lopez?
Well, I just, okay, so regarding the amounts, there are 7 planning board members, correct?
Yes.
7, so it's half the size of this body. And it would be, so even at maximum, right, if everyone attended all their meetings, that's 1,200, no?
The planning board meets once every 5 weeks. Once every 5 weeks, that's it. Just for clarification.
Okay, yeah, and so I think that some of those numbers are a little exaggerated. I don't think we'd have to budget that much, and I do think that, again, this intervention is an incentive for these people to get out there and being able to do the best job that they can do. You know, we don't want there to be encumbrances for them, you know, to get out to different parts of the county to make educated votes, and I think a large part of that is providing them an incentive to do a very good job. Yeah, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, so we have J.P. Rio Stafford.
So 52 weeks in a year divided by 5 is
10 meetings.
10, yeah, 10
Yeah, it'd be 10 meetings, right? So at $75, it'd
10
be
meetings times 2,100 is about 21,000.
Yeah, so 75 a meeting would be 750, right?
Yeah,
And
300
then
times 7
300 would
people,
be, right.
21,000.
Point of clarification, the motion on the floor is for 200,
Correct.
not 3.
Well, the ordinance had 3, and I think that's why that discussion came up. The amendment on the floor that we're discussing is to be 200. That is correct. Yes, ma'am. J.P. Dennis?
Call the question.
I think we're ready. Do you want to call you want me to call the question, or you just want to go ahead and vote? Okay. So we have amendment on the table to modify the proposed ordinance from $300 per meeting attended not to exceed 4 meetings in 1 month to $200 per meeting attended not to exceed 4 meetings in 1 month. All those in favor for the amendment, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. I think that amendment fails. Not on an amendment. Which means you gotta stand, right? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, the only difference, you have to stand versus, that's fine. So all those in favor of the amendment, please stand. All those opposed? I think it's obvious. Amendment fails. So we're back to the original motion for amending the ordinance to $300 per meeting attended not to exceed 4 meetings in 1 month. J.P. Dennis?
Call the question.
Yeah, so the motion is to call the question. All those in favor to call the question, debate and call the question, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, so we'll call the question. Citizen comment?
Sherry Main, 15451 Riches Road, Fayetteville. Thanks for listening over the last meetings that I've been saying that we need to increase this pay and also increase the number on the planning board. I've been to the planning board meetings. Sometimes there's only 3 there, but then there's not a quorum. So if they have cups on there to vote on, they don't get to vote. They're tabled until the next meeting. And also, in reference to something that was said earlier, the planning meetings are on set dates on the calendar at the beginning of the year. We know when they are. They're every 5th week. So the planning board members should plan their calendars to align with the planning board calendar. They know when the meetings are. It is a commitment, just like each of you have a commitment on this horseshoe to be at these meetings. You know when they are, and you can plan your calendar around the meetings. If you want to be on here, then you would do that. Same as a member on the planning board. They would work their calendar to be at the meetings. A lot of them are habitual and are not there, the same ones. And I don't know that more pay would help them to be there, but certainly aligning their calendars with the meetings would be if they're a committed member. Something else is Benton County planning rules are different than Washington County. CUPs are sometimes hard and controversial. This room is filled with citizens with public comments to consider by the planning board. Just the past meeting, there were 2, and there were a lot of public comment. And I was at that meeting, and they were both tabled. Like one of the other JPs said, in fear of one person voting against them and it being denied. I think just more people at the table would have more of a view, especially on CUPs. And that's my opinion, that you need more members. This county is growing, and 7 members have been on the board forever, since 2005. Each time the population goes up, this horseshoe was added to from the beginning number of what it was. And so I think we need to look at that with the planning board as well. As the county grows, planning board needs to grow, because you're going to have more CUPs, more growth, more planning board activity, and I just think that brings more conversation to the table. Thank you.
Sorry, I like to tie myself. Bryson Austin, I am a resident of Fayetteville. First of all, I'd like to say, I know that some of you might be frustrated with this debate, but I was a debate kid, and I find democracy and deliberation very stimulating. So thank you for serving your opinions and the people. I'm gonna be kind of scatterbrained because I was writing notes as you all deliberated. But I think the idea for alternates is a great one. I was in student government for 4 years, and we had alternates for our Supreme Court justices. That might seem a little odd, but they were proxies, and so whenever someone had to be out, there was always a person to fulfill that seat. And then I also want, in this discussion, to consider, you all to consider the cost of living in Fayetteville and in the county, and also the cost of living increases for Northwest Arkansas. We are probably the fastest growing region in the state. And I think with that, well, I know with that comes increased prices for families, increases on health care and child care, and we just want to be able to take care of our public servants, because I believe that there's no higher calling than serving your fellow man. Yeah, but for my time in Associated Student Government, I was working full-time, taking classes, or I was working part-time, taking classes full-time, and dedicating myself to serving other students. So I was regularly pulling 60, 65-hour weeks and only being paid for about 15 of that at my part-time job. So I know that that extra incentive doesn't always seem like it's necessary, but sometimes it can be very helpful if somebody has to get childcare in order to serve, or if that is the only way that they can serve. It's a good incentive to go ahead and give it to them. And I do think that they are worth it, what they're giving to our county. And in terms of the comment of whether Washington County is the highest paid or not. I think that, again, Washington County is growing at a quicker pace, a quicker clip than the rest of the state, and that the pay should match that. So, thank you.
Any other citizen comment? I have a motion on the table to pass this to the full quorum court, the due pass recommendation by J.P. Massengale, seconded by J.P. Pond. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. It passes.
But it doesn't get on the due pass recommendation.
Item 12 is an ordinance appropriating $506,469.12 from the General Reserve Fund 1001 to cap budget for 2025. This is for the Returning Home, Inc. J.P. Ecke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make an amendment to change some of the wording and the dates that are on the ordinance. On the second whereas, and was through, it goes through, the second one says, Washington County began partnering with Returning Home, Inc. in 2022 and was to run through April 30th, 2026 is what needs to be added. On the third whereas, we need to strike 2026 and write through April 30th, 2027. Is that correct, Mr. Robbins? Okay.
Yes, the funding would provide 32 beds from May 1st, 2026 to April 30th, 2027.
Thank you.
Okay, so two amendments. One is changing,
No, it's one amendment changing two items.
yeah,
the two
thank you,
whereas.
sorry. The third,
The second whereas
sorry.
to
The second,
include
there it is. The
and.
second whereas will change from Washington County began partnering with Returning Home, Inc. in 2022 to provide an alternative to incarceration within the county to read, Washington County began partnering with Returning Home, Inc. in 2022 through April 30th, 2026 to provide an alternative to incarceration with the county. The second change is in the third whereas, which reads, due to success of Returning Home's CAP program, the county desires to continue its partnership through 2026 to read, whereas due to the success of Returning Home's CAP program, the county desires to continue its partnership through April 30th, 2027.
Correct.
Discussion. Discussion on the amendment, yeah, I apologize. J.P. Koger.
So, thank you. So will this actually be what do you, see, I thought you said you were gonna run out of money if we didn't appropriate this.
So we need funds to, I was thinking we were on a calendar year because we got the funding in 2022, so I forgot that we were not on a calendar year. The funds will actually end in April of next year. So this funding would go from April of next year for 12 months.
So do you have the funding to run it the rest of the time then, between then?
We're gonna make it work. That's what we do.
Okay, so we're talking about the amendment right now. Okay, that's all I
amendment
have
only.
about the amendment.
Any other discussion on the amendment? J.P. Rio Stafford.
I just want to say thanks to constituents of the county, which actually are who alerted us to that our original ordinance ran this, intended to run this money through April of 2026. It was some eagle-eyed members of the public who spotted that and kept all of us from accidentally, double dipping.
Yep.
So, thanks.
Other discussion on the amendment? Seeing no other discussion on the amendment, we have an amendment on the floor proposed by J.P. Ecke, seconded by J.P. Rio Stafford, which will change the second whereas to read, Washington County began partnering with Returning Home, Inc. in 2022 through April 30th, 2026 to provide an alternative to incarceration within the county, and changing the third whereas to read, due to the success of Returning Home's CAP program, the county desires to continue its partnership through April 30th, 2027. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, that passes. Back to the amendment. Couple things I think the members need to consider. In the title, an ordinance appropriating $506,469.12 from the General Reserve Fund to cap budget for 2025. That needs to be changed to 2026. Secondly, this is looking to pull those funds out of the General Reserve Fund 1001. I do not believe we want to be taking these funds out of the General Reserve Fund. We've got over $3 million, as Comptroller Sherman told us today, in the general fund, the unappropriated general fund, and I believe that's the fund that should be utilized. Yes, sir? Let me find that. Okay.
So as a procedural matter, you cannot pass an ordinance to change the budget for 2026 because there is no budget for 2026.
Okay.
Okay, so if that's the case, my suggestion would be that you table this until after the budget passes, or you put it into the budget. Yes,
Okay.
because technically you cannot change something that
Thank
doesn't
you.
exist.
Yeah, but if we leave it like this, then we have problems later as well, correct?
No, not necessarily. That was the discussion that was had at the last meeting, that if this is treated more as a grant of the county, then when it comes time to do the rollover in the grants like the grants department does every year, that this money would just roll over into the next budget year.
Okay, so
And so there is a way to do that
Okay.
Without, you can fund it now, but it wouldn't be available until the April 30th, 2026 date to be dispersed. And basically, it's kind of like a
grant, so it
grant
just
fund.
rolls over.
I mean, I think you could do it that way.
Okay.
If you wanted to have something in.
Then, okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Again, I go back to, for the board's consideration, I believe we should go ahead and use the money that we have in our general fund versus our general reserve. But I'll leave it to the board at that point. J.P. Ecke.
Then the motion will be to roll it over? Is that what you're saying? To unappropriated reserves?
No, that, based on what JP Lyons is saying, that would need to be an amendment to amend it from the reserve fund to just the
General.
unappropriated reserves in the general fund.
So striking reserves to the
Basically,
general fund.
To the general fund, 1,000.
1,000.
Go to 1,000.
And so the motion can be, I move to roll this ordinance over, or striking reserve from the ordinance to read just the general fund and roll it over.
I think that the motion would be to amend it to take the funds from the general fund 1000 instead of the general reserve fund 1001.
That's correct. There's no need for
Given
it.
what Councilor Lester explained, I don't think we got to deal with my first comment. I was wrong.
Okay, then let's do that. Then that's the motion.
So I have an amendment from J.P. Ecke to modify to take the funds out of the general fund 1000 instead of the general reserve fund. Any further discussion? JP Bruns?
Hey, Nick, you said, correct me if I'm wrong, but did you not say you're gonna make the money, work until the end of the year?
Till the April 30th.
Uh-huh. Well, my question would be, why don't we just table this and then we just write the ordinance the way Ms. Ecke had said, and then present it in totality instead of making it all these amendments?
I think you presented a reason, sir. Do you want to address that?
What's that?
So do you want to address that? I think last meeting you talked about you can't get people assigned to you without having budget for it because you wouldn't have enough budget to fulfill the full term. I believe is what you said.
For example, just might have been early this week into last week. Basically, an attorney reached out and said, "Hey, we've got this individual. He's going to court in December. We'd like you to assess them and see if he'd be a good fit. And if accepted, we can get with the prosecutor and start the process for December." We let him know that, hey, we just need to make sure before December, we'll hopefully make sure that we have the funding that once we agree and they go to court, that we'd have 4 months. Because when we think of the judicial system, it's not super quick, always. And so when we're accepting people, and we know in 6 weeks or 10 weeks, that's when they're actually getting sentenced. So we just don't want to accept somebody, then that person get put in a plea agreement, and then we don't have the funding to run during the duration of that person's agreement with the courts.
So will 1 month hurt you?
Potentially.
Potentially.
It would just make us hold off.
We don't want to hurt you.
For
That's
the
what
next
we
30
don't
days, we
wanna
wouldn't
do.
be accepting court cases that would potentially come to us later on. So we just wait 30 days in our current situation.
Okay. So you think it would be detrimental to your program to wait?
Yeah, I would say if we could vote tonight, they could get something, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, I'll withdraw my motion then, sir.
Thank you, sir. JP Ecke? I don't know how I got Lecky. I have a motion to call the question by JP Ecke. Was there a second? I didn't hear a second. Was there a second to call the question? Okay, JP Rio Stafford.
Thank you. I guess this brings up an interesting question I hadn't considered before, because I mean, even if we vote to pass this money can't be given to you or used until after April 30th, 2026, which is still like 6 months away. And I know it seems like that's, legally, that's, you know, kind of putting you in a bind no matter what. But, you know, it sounds like your organization's unfortunately going to have to figure it out for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Because that's the way the previous ordinance several years ago was written.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess I have struggled to understand with a 6 month runway going forward, how voting on this tonight or not tonight is going to affect that.
Just from my experience being up here, I would say the sooner we could get an agreement so that we can make plans to, you know, appropriately move forward with the organization would be great. Could we make it work if we wait a month? We're going to make it work no matter what. Okay. So, I mean, that's what we do.
Okay. And I'm just thinking because it's getting, you know, it's almost 9 p.m. now.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of, we now need to consider a whole bunch of amendments to this. I move to table it until after we've passed the 2026 budget so we can just add this onto that cleanly.
Well, right now, we have an amendment on the table that we're discussing, and that doesn't have to do with that amendment.
Motion table takes
Oh,
precedence.
it takes precedence. So do you want it to table, which means it's discussed tonight, I believe, or postpone to another
Postpone,
meeting?
really a motion to postpone until after the 2026 budget is approved.
Did I hear, was there a second? Thank you. So we have a motion to postpone until after the 2026 budget is approved by J.P. Rio Stafford, seconded by J.P. Washington. Discussion, J.P. Ecke.
I do believe that Mr. Robbins made it clear to the court that he needs this funding now so that way they can plan on how many, and putting it back to January is just going to delay in having people knowing that they are going to have a bed within 6 months, 4 months. And if we can secure this funding now, that way they can plan on how many people's lives is going to impact. Rather than tabling this because of a budget, which we apparently have a lot of money to pay planning board members now, but these are people's lives, you know, that he's trying to plan for so that way they can make room for this program. And I just move everybody, let's vote on it tonight. The whereas had to do with dates, and we're all good with that. So I ask that you move forward and allow people to have access to this program. A no vote to saying, we are not allowing people to have access to this program. Thank you.
J.P. Bond?
Maybe I'm saying the same thing, but maybe I'm not. But from what I understood from what you presented to us, you don't feel like making commitments to take more clients in the future until you get a commitment from us. And that's what you're talking about here is your integrity.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to go and write a hot check. I mean, basically, it's the same.
Yeah.
And so you really don't feel free to make those future commitments without our commitment.
Yeah, and the idea is we know we wouldn't get the funding until May 1st, so it's not necessarily about the funding itself, it's about that commitment to know that we're not gonna skip a beat, we're gonna keep going.
I would be opposed to postponing this for that reason, in order to, you might say, keep you out of the red with commitments.
Thank you.
J.P. Lopez?
Yeah, I believe it's my understanding that this is a 4-month program, and so the commitment is anything that would fall out of the scope of 4 months. We can't plan that far in the future, so we wouldn't commit to anybody outside of that 4-month scope. And from today, April 30th is 6 months away. That's the 4th month of the year, that's 6 months. If we table this 1 month, we are not interfering with a 4-month window. That is not a material representation of the facts. I don't agree with that. I don't think that we are encumbering anybody from participating in this program by going 1 month further. I think you can still make the same commitments. That timeline doesn't make sense to me. I don't think that's a valid argument, in my opinion.
So the 4 months is the duration the individual's in the program. So the judicial system happens months prior to that. So the plea agreements, the assessments, the interviews, they attend classes, that process is typically 2 months long. So for example, the individual I was talking about, this for December, we would need to start the process to be able to say, yeah, in December, he could come to us. And then he would need to be in the program for 4 months. So again, we'll make whatever work for sure, because I mean, that's what we do. But just, again, it's just about a commitment of knowing where we stand with the judicial system and with our staff and our facilities and our clients. And so we know the direction that we're going forward. You guys' support's huge to that. And again, the funding wouldn't happen till next year anyways.
So I guess I'm more direct, because I guess I'm left confused. If you talked about a gentleman that I think last week you were looking to take, but you wouldn't take because you don't know if he has this funding or not. Did I misunderstand earlier?
So basically, we're taking certain people that we know we could get them quick, but anybody that had a court date that's basically December on, we just asked the attorneys, hey, let's just wait.
So anybody that comes to you now for a court date in December would be refused at this point?
The hope is we wouldn't accept them at this time, but we would say that, hey, we believe hopefully we can have enough time to go through that process. We're not the only options they have. So as the courts are making decisions, they can choose other things. And then certain situations, we have an individual, for example, if drug court's taking somebody, they expedite the court, so they move their court date up, and so it could be somebody that you could get within a couple days. So each court case is unique. The program itself, after they've arrived to our program, is 4 months long. It takes longer than that to get the individual into our program. So we can take anybody that we know is coming soon, that will be here, finish their program in April, but we couldn't have anybody that's later court, and those are the individuals that we're being asked to interview and process currently in the judicial system. That's the window that we're in right now. We've had people that 2 months ago we accepted and we're waiting for them to get out. So those individuals are in good situation, so we don't have to worry about that.
Good. But again, you're in the window now of taking people that would take you beyond the April date. I'm just trying to make sure I've got.
So we're just holding off.
There is a risk that we're going to miss people to go into this program.
Yeah, so we're only taking individuals that can come immediate.
Again, just trying, because I'm with most of my colleagues of trying to make sure this opportunity stays out there and continues, right? So just trying to make sure I understood it correctly. Okay. Judge, no, that's fine. Judge, did you want to provide any comment?
Is he allowed to phone a friend?
Yeah.
Who wants to be a millionaire? Okay, I just say, for y'all to, I don't know how y'all do this, and whatever y'all are getting paid, it's not near enough. I do notice, though, that y'all have switched this, so this is not near as comfortable, and we have to stand to talk to y'all. So I did notice that. All I can say is that I love the CAPS program. Our participants, if I could put, I would say about 20% of the males in our program, in the CAPS program, I would do it. But they only have so many spots. It's a great program. What he's asking for, it's keeping people out of jail, which is costing us money. The faster, the easier it is to get them in that program. If he's unable to tell a defense attorney and a prosecutor, hey, listen, yes, I've got a spot for them in CAPS, you can put that as a condition of probation, prosecutor is very likely going to look at prison if they can't do that, because that's something extra. That's something much more than probation. Because probation, you just go check in with a probation officer once a month. Hardly ever drug tested. There's not a lot of counseling. There's not a lot of supervision. There's not a lot of accountability, unfortunately. This program provides that, and so it gives the prosecutors that opportunity to be able to give them something that's more than regular probation, but it's not as much as prison. And if they don't have this opportunity to go to CAPS, if it's not an option for a plea bargain, I'm afraid that we will end up with a lot more people in our prison. And I know y'all don't want that. I don't want that. So that's all I have to say. It's a great program. Anything that y'all can do to do this as quick as possible to help them so that they know it's solidified and that they're able to continue this program, it's amazing. And I would appreciate anything you can do because it is an asset to our drug court program and to Washington and Madison County. Do y'all have any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. JP Bruns?
Well, number one, Nick, I apologize. I even brought this thing up because actually we're playing semantics. You know, instead of, I think we need to think of people's lives that we're potentially putting into another month of possibly prison. And, you know, you're talking to a retired cop. I put people in prison all the time. But, you know, if we can find the alternative, and I think you've done a great job finding these alternatives. I don't like what Ms. Ecke wrote. I think it should be changed. However, for semantics, I'm willing to pass it.
Thank you.
JP Koger?
Thank you. I may be confused. Are we still talking about tabling it?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what's on the table. That's what we're still discussing.
Okay, one reason I think that it should be tabled, and correct me, Nick, if I'm wrong about this, but have we received an accounting about how the money that we have given you, what, 1.9 million just about in 2 different ordinances? I haven't seen an accounting of how that's been spent. So I'm saying that's a reason that we should table it until we can see an accounting.
Yes, sir, you're correct. It is a postponement.
That's why then I think it should be postponed until we can see an accounting, because we need to, I don't doubt that what the CAP program does is great. But I just think that we need to look at it, and we need to see, you know, how that money's been spent so far. It's a lot of money, almost $2 million. Thank you.
JP Rios Stafford?
Thank you. JP Ecke brought up a good point a little earlier. I would like to amend my motion to postpone for 1 month rather than postponing until after the 2026 budget, which is an unknown date. We probably won't get to December 31st in passing this budget, but who knows? But at least that way, we have a month to clean this up properly and bring it back the right way. And so I'd like to amend my motion to just postpone it for 1 month, not until the 2026 budget is passed.
Well, I was gonna say, this is she took back her motion to postpone, and she has a new postpone. Sorry?
It has a second. It's been moved and seconded, so this is a motion to amend her first motion.
Thank you. So this is
Did I just make this super complicated?
We'll get there. We'll get there. This is a motion to amend the postpone motion to postpone for 1 month instead of after the 2026 budget is approved. I got a second from JP Lopez. Any other discussion? Okay. Oh, JP Ecke?
I still don't understand why you're delaying people's lives for another month when we can pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. And when that comes out, the dates will be on there and you'll be able to see it clearly. These are people's lives. Let's not dilly-dally or procrastinate. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, so we are taking up the amendment to the postpone. G.P. Wilson. I'm not laughing at it because you guys sneak in there after I look down for something
And
else.
I'm not wanting to prolong anything. just for purposes of clarification, if the amendment to the amendment is to postpone 1 month, I want to know exactly what we're voting for. Could I assume that this would be taken up at the very next Finance Committee meeting, which would be 1 month, basically?
Yeah, right. No, it'd be the next finance meeting.
But I mean, if we've got an amendment on an amendment, there's been some confusion
So let me-
tonight. Anyway, I just want to know what
Let me-
1
let
month
me- Let me
means.
clarify, that's what I was about to do.
Okay,
we
okay,
good?
thank you.
So this, what we're voting on is an amendment to the motion to postpone, to amend that to be postponed for a month. So we're voting on it, we're not voting on the postpone, we're voting on the amendment to the motion to postpone, to change it from until after the 2026 budget is approved to for 1 month, which means, I believe, Counselor, it would come back next Finance Committee meeting next month. Does that help?
Yes, sir.
The amendment was moved by J.P. Rio Stafford and seconded by J.P. Lopez. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Oh, you think you're lost?
I just want to know what a yes vote means here and what a no vote
So a
means.
yes vote means the postpone motion will change to 1 month postponement.
But then we still have to vote
Then we still have to vote on the postponement.
on the postponement.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it, thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. You good? Okay. Did I do it right? Yep. All right, so show of hands. It was kind of tight. So show of hands if you're in favor for the amendment to the postponed motion. Raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. No, raise your hand. 3, 4, 5, 6. So the amendment passes? Yes?
Well, you have to vote too.
I vote on ties, that's fine.
Yeah, so the amendment passes, so now we're up to.
Now, now we're back to postpone. So now we're voting on the motion to postpone for a month. We good? All those in favor, aye? Oh, gee. All those in favor, aye? All those opposed? No. I think that doesn't pass. I think that fails. Okay. You want to raise your hand again, JP Pond? Fails.
Yeah, well, that's your call.
Okay, fails. So now we're back to the original motion. To amend, that's right, we were doing an amend. To amend from general reserve, to take the funds from the general reserve fund 1001, to take the funds from the general fund 1000. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Okay, passes. So now we're back to the amended, no?
We don't have a motion now. No one's made a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that we pass this on to the full quorum court.
So pass the amended ordinance on
Amended
to the
ordinance,
full quorum court
with the due pass recommendation. Thank you.
We're back to any other discussion. JP Koger.
Just to be sure, we're talking about whether or not we're going to pass the ordinance.
Yeah, we're now back to the ordinance. It's
With the
been
amendments that
amended.
have been made.
As amended.
Okay, so like I said, I don't doubt that the CAP program is a great program, but we're like, the quorum court, the county, we're like a householder of business. We have limited resources. So we have to invest in those resources where they help the most people and have the greatest return. The main driver of our jail population is pretrial. Last month, that was 413 pretrial out of 751. CAP just can't address that, it's too limited.
Go ahead, please.
Last year, CAP served 79 people. That's dozens of people, not hundreds. When this county invested $70,000 in 2020 for the criminal justice assessment study, it told us what we needed to do to address the jail overcrowding, and that was pretrial services, expanding drug court, and expanding veterans court. So just as a comparison, CAP for 32 beds is at $506,000 per the ordinance. Pretrial services could be for a little more, $552,000, but would serve 1,400 to 1,900, depending on the caseload of the workers. And pretrial would include women, people with disabilities, and those who can't work factory jobs. But let's think about our budget. Some of the things that we need to consider when we're this 500,000 plus may not sound like that much in the overall budget process, but we heard tonight that we're talking about 13 road graders, and we're talking about a fueling station, dump trucks, crusher. We got personnel cost. The COVID mitigation project is asking for $474,000 for jail equipment. We have raising employee insurance premiums somewhere around maybe 1.2 million. We've already funded the CRI for $575,000 this year, and the sheriff's office is asking for 8 new corporals for CRI and at around $500,000. So I just think there's a lot that we need to be considering and making sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck, the most out of each dollar that we spend. So my question, I guess I'm looking at it as, should we fund a small, high-cost program for a few dozen men, or should we broaden our perspective and go with proven alternatives that will reach hundreds? And that's what I'm going to suggest that we do, that we invest on the front end and not the back end. So I will be voting against this for those reasons. Thank you.
JP Loeb.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to say as well that I do support alternative programs to just penal incarceration. I do think that those are things that we have to look at, and I won't pretend to know what everyone's stance is on this, but I do know one thing, and as I've heard repeatedly, that we want to make sure that we are doing the best for people's lives and to get out of the way of helping people get out of bad situations. And like JP Koger had brought up, and I apologize for addressing her, but like she had brought up, there are other methods that we could look at and that we should be looking at, because when we started at the beginning of this year with CRI, we committed to looking at other forms of helping look at incarceration through a different lens. And things like pretrial services that professionals who we asked their opinion on had told us to consider. The fact that we have failed to consider them throughout the course of this year, we're almost at the end of it, I do think that that's something that we should look at. And while I will still be supporting this, I do hope that you all look at this as not an end-all be-all for what we do for people in this county, because it's not an acceptable state of affairs to have only done this and it's been a year. Thank you.
JP Rio Stafford.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, since we didn't table this, I have 3 pages of questions from constituents that I worked hard to find the answers to ahead of this meeting that I'm now going to go through that is directly related to this grant. We had a question about whether renewal of this contract would require competitive bidding. I reached out to Mr. Lester. Mr. Lester indicated that because this is a renewal of an existing contract, that it does not require competitive bidding. So that's an answer to that question that was out there. There was a question about, I guess at last week's meeting, I wasn't here, I apologize, I was on vacation last week, so I'm getting caught up on all this. It was shared that the clients in the program pay a $120 weekly program fee, which I guess was new information to some members of the public. I don't think I really knew that before either. Nick sort of answered that to me over email. I don't know if you want to, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you'd kind of gone into that and the reasons for that, and your reasoning for that fee.
Yeah. So on the financial stewardship and program fees, first off, there is, I'm probably missing some. I believe there's 10 transitional housing programs in Northwest Arkansas, and only one of them does not charge program fees. So like in our field, very common.
So this is pretty normal for
yes, and the reason is so if you're getting grants and other things, they don't want to cover the administrative stuff. They don't want to cover insurances. They don't want to cover your accounting. They don't want to cover a lot of the stuff that funds still need to be recovered for. So our and stewardship is a big piece, and to be able to keep the costs down to the county. So what we did was, and I'll just kind of read it off, our request of $504,000 to serve 32 men represents a 33% increase in beds. So from the last request in 2022, when food was a lot cheaper, we have increased by 33% in services, and we decreased the total amount that we were requesting. So we got from $520,000 to provide 24 beds, $504,000 to provide 32. So stewardship is a huge piece of what we do. As all nonprofits, we're grinders. We look for free stuff, and we look for hand-me-downs. And somebody gave me a 27-foot tent or a teepee the other day, and I'm pretty excited about it, especially because we got family day and the kids are running around. So we're always looking at opportunities to make the most of our resources. So that $120 a week represents, on average, 15% of the client's take-home pay. So our clients, through our partnership with our two employers, that we provide transportation to and from, and just so you know, it takes us 45 minutes to drive each way to get them to one of our partner employers. So there's costs in that as well. Our clients start off within 3 weeks of leaving incarceration, make $40,000 a year, which compared to most programs in our field, that's very significantly high. So 15% of your take-home pay to help provide other services outside of grant funding is just a little skin in the game. And that's an important part of learning how to pay your bills and bringing something to the table. And we don't have anybody in our program complaining. Our men live in a very beautiful home. They have really nice vehicles to be driven to and from appointments. We take them to every single court date. Our clients average 3 to 5 district courts that they have to attend. So we're constantly driving. We have staff that are gone all day, every single day at court. And so we're providing all those accommodations. And then, so the idea of, I know was mentioned, and this may be your next one, the idea of like, hey, we force people to work in plants or whatever. Yes, we have 2 partnered employers, and that is where we take our guys to work. Never once have we denied anybody because they were not able to work. Our interview process is a self-assessment. So the individual, we read, hey, here's the expectations. Do you think you can meet those expectations? We don't do physicals. They're in jail. So most of the people we don't even see. So we, if they say, yeah, I can meet those expectations and I'm going to head to work, it'd be the same if they said, I'm not going to go to mental health counseling or I'm not going to do case management. We have people say, I'm not going to go to work. So then we wouldn't be right for taking that person and put them in a bad situation. Prosecutor's office has always been really good with us. If we come back and say, hey, it doesn't seem like it's a good fit for us, but we reached out to this group or that group and we think it'd be a better fit, we've never had any issues, so no one's not going to get in trouble because it's a voluntary program. The individual has to interview, they have to say they want to go, then they have to attend a class in the jail. So like it's a process. It is not something that they're being forced to do. It's an opportunity that the judicial system puts on the back of things to provide resources. There is some accountability to resources. But if an individual has his own transportation and doesn't miss any of the programming requirements, they can work wherever they want. So we got guys working different shifts. We got working different plants. We got, we've had people work during day shifts, second shifts, third shifts. So yes, we have 2 employers, but those are the ones that everybody goes and works at because we provide the transportation. It fits with their schedule. And so again, no one's being forced to make money and provide for their kids and pay their fines and fees and do all the things that we all are expected to do.
Thank you. Thank you and that was going to be the next part of it. I'll have a couple more in just a second, and I just wanted to add to that because on that same question that we got from constituents on whether people with disabilities were somehow being left out of the program, I also reached out to our prosecutor, Brandon Carter, and he emailed me back and said that the CAP is generally used by this office as a tool for sentencing because it doesn't involve incarceration. A defense attorney, or this office for that matter, can always find an alternative program other than CAP for someone, we also talked about, a previous question had come up about men versus women because CAP is for men only. Can always find an alternative program for someone of a different gender because we're not confined inside the walls of a prison or jail setting. We were talking about the constitutional questions of equal protection. I have not had it come up, this is still Brandon Carter speaking, I have not had it come up as it relates to disability, but my thought would be consistent with gender in that very likely we could find an equivalent program or perhaps create a hybrid in that for a person with a disability, the requirement to work at a specific employer could be waived as long as the person in the program finds equivalent employment which accommodates disability. To my knowledge, this office has not yet been presented with such an instance, but I will poll the DPAs here to ensure that this is a case and report back if I learn that we have had this arise. If it has, I'll find out how we deal with it as well, which I think was a very proactive response, and I thank him for that. The next, I'm getting near the end here. There's only 2 things left. I tried to put on my bean counter hat as well with this and just try to do the math. I don't really have complete numbers. I know the funding request was for $506,500 roughly. You served 79 men in 2025. That comes out to about $6,400 per individual.
If you mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
So on average, the individuals with these charges that don't come to programs like ours and get sentenced to prison serve 3 years. And so that costs about $73,000.
Okay, great. That's good. That's
so
a good
compared to
number know.
6,000.
6,000 compared to 72,000.
And our outcomes are tremendously better. Than that system.
Of course, and and some of that is hard to come up with the numbers for what it does for our community. That doesn't take into account the benefit to society of these folks never coming back into the system, of having gainful employment, contributing to the local economy, homeownership, and the generational wealth that comes with that, and the positive impact on their being reunited, having a positive relationship with their children. I talked about, I did go back and watch last week's meeting, which breaks the cycle of generational trauma, because we heard from you that a lot of these individuals had broken childhoods themselves, which is heartbreaking, that's why they're in this situation. And the final question we got from constituents was whether, something J.B. Coger addressed, was whether the money would be better spent on something like pretrial services. I don't know the answer to that. I do know that the 2020 Criminal Justice Assessment indicated that pretrial services was one of the best bangs for the buck in terms of solving overcrowding the jail, but I don't see this as an either or. I support this program. I'm going to vote yes on it and move it on to the quorum court. But I do want to make an open call to our judges, prosecutor, public defender, the sheriff. bring us a real pretrial services plan. I'll vote yes on it. We were on the verge of having one 2 years ago when the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee was disbanded. We haven't heard anything about it since. Bring it to us. Let's do it. But I see it as a separate issue from this. We need all the tools in the toolbox. I see it as a yes and.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. And just so you know, I've been, just in the last 2 weeks, speaking to organizations that work with women. One is considering putting in a request for a CAP program for women.
Great.
And I know somebody has already, a different organization has already put in a request for a CRI women's program. So even though that's not our space, like,
Yeah.
we're still actively pursuing it. We're having people do tours to our facility. We're answering questions. We're helping them with structuring what that program could look like, because I think all of this stuff has to happen. I mean, this has made a huge difference. What if you're doing 3 or 4 things like this? I mean, that's a game changer for this community. And so, yeah, it shouldn't just be what we're doing. It should be lots of different organizations.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for your work, and sorry things are going to be tight till May.
Yeah, not a
Okay.
problem. We'll make it
All
work.
right, thanks.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Citizen comment?
Sherry Main, 15451 Regis Road, Fayetteville. I'm a accountant by trade, so I ran some numbers, but I think this is a good program, and in my opinion, it does help people, even if it only helps 1 or 2. I mean, we should help those that need help, but as far as getting the best program for the money spent, you need to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. At least look at a budget. If there's a budget prepared to arrive at this cost of $500,000 for 2026, look at, be good stewards and look at a budget, see where the money is being spent. Break it down between operating, supplies, food, salaries, the total cost of everything, gas, vehicle expense, so forth. So you can work the numbers and determine, this is out in Huntsville, so it is a drive into Washington County to come to court to take these people. So I think you just need to be a good steward of our money and make sure you're investing in the right source to help the people of Washington County that need the help. Thanks.
Good evening, Bryson again. Just a few notes. We would ask you to pause any decision and ask for a full accounting of the financial spending under this plan and the invoices for what the program spends. That's just a normal thing to ask for when you're running a business or any kind of program. This should include the financial expenditures as well as total outcomes and efforts of the program. We also asked that the quorum court in Washington County give a full and specific detail of what the taxpayers have purchased versus what members of the program have paid into. It was alarming to hear that Returning Home, in their presentation at County Services, says that those in the program are paying for the program while also it being funded by taxpayer dollars. It's not a private program. And that was never disclosed beforehand or at any time in the years that this program has occurred. It was shared that only 2 employers exist, and they are both in manufacturing. So if a person chooses not, but cannot fulfill the functions of that job, they cannot be applied into that alternate program. And I also don't know of another choice outside of CAP for people with disabilities. It is concerning that it is only now being shared, and it warrants further investigation to know who is not being allowed into the program and why we are consistently segregating our different people that are pretrial. We need data, evidence-based, driven programming that restores people in totality, not just in line with a particular belief system. but an ethical American code. The community continues to want to see exploration of alternatives to incarceration that deliver the greatest return for our community, that can be offered to both men and women and follow transparent and public processes. We know that your roles are not easy, and we appreciate the time and consideration you take in looking at this possible funding and concern for taxpayers. And lastly, I would say I have been referencing them a lot lately, and that brings me great pride, but I respect all belief systems. That is what this country was founded on, a separation of church and state. You make a mockery of our founding fathers by fusing the church and the state. I would say keep the two separate. They are both important pillars of our community, but they do not need to be intertwined. And again, that is something that is written into our founding documents. Thank you.
Citizen comment. So we'll take up the question for this ordinance. Was motioned by J.P. Ecke to pass it on to the full quorum court to do pass recommendation, seconded by J.P. Dennis. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. It passes. Item 13. And this ordinance is identifying additional revenue in the amount of $24,000 in the AOC Juvenile Court Grant Fund and appropriating that $24,000 to the AOC Juvenile Court Grant Fund line items.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. Thank you, sir. I'd like to make a motion that we pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion by J.P. Ecke to pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation, a second by J.P. Dean. Any discussion? Citizen comment? So I have a motion by J.P. Ecke to pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation, seconded by J.P. Dean. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It passes. Do we have a motion for a? JP Hires.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that items 9, 10, and 13 be added to a consent agenda.
9, 10, 13, and was that you, JP Dennis, that seconded it? So I have a motion by JP Hires to have items 9, 10, and 13 on the consent agenda, seconded by JP Dennis. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Now we're to citizen comment. 3 minutes per person, 15 minutes total. Please state your name
Thank
and
you.
where you're from.
Again? Just kidding. So, good evening. My name is Michelle Walchuk. I'll talk fast. I live at 1008 East Trust Street here in Fayetteville. Thanks for hearing my public comment so late. I serve as president of the local chapter of League of Women Voters of Washington County. Like I said earlier, the League is a fiercely nonpartisan organization that works to empower and educate voters. You may have met some of your voters at our candidate forums, and we appreciate your attendance to those that we host before elections. I'm here speaking on behalf of our local Washington County League and have one, I hope, simple ask. As you're aware, the current contract to provide comprehensive detainee medical care in Washington County ends in December of this year, and there's no current plan to open that service up to an invitation to bid or an RFP for services that would begin in January 2026 doesn't exist, and that date is fast approaching. I'm here this evening to ask that you just not automatically renew the current contract without opening up the bid for this vital and expensive service to our county. Currently, the contract is held by Caris Correctional Health and has been renewed without opening up for any bidding since December 2022. And even then, the bidding process that did take place in '22 was with such a short window that we likely missed out on potential bidders and healthy competition. The RFP back then was posted on December 13 of 2022, and it was due on December 28th of 2022, which was only a mere 2 weeks over the Christmas holidays. How can we be certain that the best care at the best price has been procured with our tax dollars over the last several years when no other companies or entities have been given a fair chance at providing the county this pricey service? A contract in excess of $2.25 million should not be awarded without all options being considered. It leaves out healthy competition, possible best care for our incarcerated population, and potentially wastes taxpayer dollars. As public health crises have increasingly revealed, a health program should protect the health of its most vulnerable populations in order to protect the health of everyone in the community. In addition, all programs should be evaluated regularly. I urge you to continue to be good stewards of the tax dollars of the citizens of Washington County and immediately put out an RFP or invitation to bid to provide comprehensive detainee medical care. When seeking these bids, you should also insist on that quality science-based health care. I'm sure we can all agree that transparency in our local government is a priority and important in the democratic process, and one way we achieve that transparency is in having open bidding processes for expensive services such as this. My ask of you this evening is to please at least put this issue on your agenda to ask for an RFP for your next regular quorum court meeting on October 16th, or however else you get this process done. Thanks for your time this evening and your public service to the citizens of Washington County. I appreciate you all. You're here late too. Thank you.
Citizen comment?
This will take 15 seconds, I swear. Evelyn Rios, Stafford, Fayetteville. I am wearing green today, ahead of World Mental Health Awareness Day, which is this Friday. Green represents hope, growth, renewal, and life. If you want to help promote awareness, wear green this Friday or wear a green ribbon. Thank you.
Any other comment, citizen comment? You're okay.
This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month for October, and for all those women that have had breast cancer, and there are men who've had breast cancer. Let's just remember them, and that's it. Thank you, sir.